You're listening to Small Business Talk with Jerry. Sit in on great conversations with entrepreneurs who risk everything chasing the American dream.
Okay, guys, here we are for another episode of Small Business Talk with Jerry. I'm Jerry. We have Liz, we have Craig, and we have Tony here tonight. We're going to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with ladies first.
All right. Hi, I'm Liz Zucco. I am the owner of Bellissima Aesthetics here in town. It is a medical aesthetics business. So I do Tox, which you would have heard Botox as a different name for it. I don't have that brand, so I can't legally say that. I can't endorse that.
Botox is an actual, that's the brand?
That's a brand.
So
That's
think of
not a
like
thing?
CoverGirl, Maybelline. I can't
Really?
say Botox because I don't have that brand.
Well, we're saying it.
Yeah, so I do.
saying it tonight.
So we call it Tox.
Tox.
That's what the cool kids call it. So
Tox.
Tox, fillers.
Sounds kind of lazy. It's like half-word thing. But,
Yeah.
but I like it.
My cousin thought I was trying to be cool by calling it Tox. I'm like, no, I literally legally can't call it Botox.
Oh, yeah. I never would have thought that you could use Botox.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
So
I thought that was just like the thing.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope. So I do Tox. I do dermal fillers, which would be like lip filler, cheek filler, RF microneedling, which would be called radio frequency microneedling. It resurfaces the tissue of the face.
Oh.
I sell medical grade skincare. I try to make ladies feel beautiful and help with aging. We age gracefully.
That's awesome. I couldn't help but notice you had the same blank look in your face that I did. The ugly guys remember like, I have no idea what you're talking
Right.
about. This is
So,
that's a thing?
like,
People can be prettier?
No,
Yeah.
men. No, this is the difference. Men don't have to worry about this stuff.
Oh,
You
is that
guys
what it
get to
is?
age, and we're
Oh,
over here
that's
coloring
it.
our hair, doing our faces, and all this stuff to ourselves.
I don't think that's true. But, well, I'm Craig, everybody. This is not my first time here, so I'm just here tonight to mainly. I got some ideas with these two sitting to my left and right here. So go ahead, Tony.
You're basically the one. You're here for looks, right?
Well, I mean, no, apparently not. 'Cause I don't have Tox.
Once I get my hands on it,
I don't have Tox or lip filler.
Yeah.
Can we do a podcast where you get toxed?
yes.
Oh,
Could we do
go
that?
get it. Go out to the
Do
car.
we call
and get
that Brotox?
Brotox.
Oh, there's so many levels of that.
it. You can't do this. then.
Brotox.
You can't do this anymore if you do that.
They do call it Scrotox too.
Oh my!
But I have not
goodness.
done that myself.
That's for the audio portion, folks. We're not
I might have to edit that one out.
shutting the
right.
camera out.
So I'm Anthony Zucco. I also own Bellissima Aesthetics because I'm her husband. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you actually are.
But you are my husband,
I am.
yes.
So if you're
Yep.
maybe, I'm taking half. Let's see. I own an insurance agency here in town for American Family Insurance, Anthony Zucco Agency. I've been an owner for almost a year now. So on the 15th, so in 2 days.
Newbie.
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 Yep.
Perfect.
So I'm new to being a business owner, so I have a lot of fresh information to share, some trials and tribulations. But I've been in insurance for 14 years. Never planned on getting into insurance like every other person in insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's just the way that it's happened. So I'm excited to be here and join the podcast today.
And for those that are not able to watch this, I just need to make this clear. The sheer, this can't even be put into words really, the sheer amount that Tony has outkicked his coverage with his wife.
Thank you.
I believe someone else in the room has been accused of marrying up.
Oh yeah,
Just for
I
the
mean
record.
absolutely, 100%, for
Yeah.
sure. Welcome to the club, by the way.
That's
I was just
really
gonna say,
welcome to the
well,
club.
I tell the wife all the time. I more than once in front of people. I have no shame. Honey, I know you can do better. Just
Yeah.
don't. Just
Yeah,
don't. That's
just
all
don't,
I
right,
can ask.
yeah.
I don't have a good reason why not to. I just say, just don't.
I want to get a
It's-
shirt that says, something about my wife wanted to marry a model or something like that. And here I am killing it or something like that.
When you're over 6 feet tall, it kind of adds points.
Yes,
so
yeah.
like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
You need the trophy husband
Try to-
shirt.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that's what you need. I just didn't want her to know that that I kicked my coverage.
I already
but
knew.
spoiled
I got
it.
the
So
memo.
now I was gonna wait till she got a little bit older and then
Yeah.
no one else would come out.
now you're locked in, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
the thing. That was
Great.
the-
This will
yeah.
be interesting.
I mean, I want to tell people I married for money, but I
Yeah.
didn't.
Too bad.
Another notch in the
I
belt.
still pay most of the bills myself.
Okay.
So.
There we go.
You know, this podcast might age well. I mean, really. That's
Yeah.
see, that's
See?
yep, here we go.
Thank
There
you.
we go. So, how long? Now, I guess we didn't ask that. How long have you been in business? How long? Bellissimo.
So Bellissima, feminine, yes.
Okay.
Is that Italian? Is that?
Yeah, yep. So that's Italian. It is Bellissima, Bellissimo, Bellissima. The reason why I picked that name was it means very beautiful in Italian. So very
Okay.
beautiful aesthetics.
Okay.
What does
Wow.
bellissimo mean?
Well, it's the masculine version.
It's a dude saying
It's
it.
the dude.
Oh.
Yeah, the dude. I guess we're gonna say.
The dude.
I would say masculine,
The bromance.
feminine,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I've actually only been in business. I just had my 1-year anniversary October
Congratulations.
1st. Thank you. And I was previously a hairstylist for 12 years before I opened up my business and became a nurse. So it kind of the beauty world just kind of is my thing. I love
Awesome.
it.
Awesome.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
how old are you? I mean, I know we're not supposed to ask that.
Why
question.
don't you tell
Well-
me how old you think I look?
Oh,
I don't
you're
mind
walking
being
into
asked.
it.
No, because
Walking into
this
it.
is a valid question. Honestly, and I'll be honest with you, 32.
I will be 38 in February.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reason I asked that because my wife's a nurse, and you said you were a hairdresser for
12
years.
Mhm. Yep.
So what made you want to switch to nursing? I mean, obviously at a later time in life, right?
Yeah, I actually, when I was a hairstylist, I actually went through a divorce at a young age.
Okay.
And I thought, well, if I never get married again and I'm going to have to support
Careful.
myself,
She knows the ropes.
This is
I
round
need-
2 for her.
So I said, if I need insurance and benefits, I better do something that I can support myself. And being a hairstylist is great, but there's no 401k, there's no
Right,
insurance, there's no benefits. If I fell and broke my arm, I mean, that was it, right?
Right.
So I decided to go back to nursing school part-time, and it took me a lot of years. I mean, I literally took a class at a time as I worked as a hairstylist.
Wow.
Sure.
Good for
And
you.
Good for you.
yeah, so then I became a nurse. It took me probably a good 4 years to finish a 2-year nursing degree. But then I started working at Mayo, and then I finished my 4-year degree as I was working at Mayo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But back to the question of how old. So the whole age comment, my goal is to look obviously younger than what I am. So it's kind of fun when I get to tell people how old I am, and they're like, "Oh, okay." I said I'm pushing 40, and I
Wow.
don't think I look. Hopefully.
And
But-
Craig, how old do you think?
52.
Well, I looked really good 5 years ago before we started having kids, and now all of a sudden I look like 50.
I get it.
And when she became a nurse, my free haircuts went away, so now I have to pay for my hair to get cut.
This
now.
is true.
So
So you become a nurse, you forget how to cut hair. I didn't know that.
that was
either.
my question,
See, I didn't
Jerry.
know
Yeah,
that.
I was more like, I don't want shards of hair all over my body and hair slippers
Bad
anymore.
day. Bad day.
I get it. So Tony, go ahead. Tell us. You said you are in an insurance agency, but you were in the corporate world for a long time. So
Yeah. So I actually got into insurance because I'm from a very small town in Missouri, and I went to school at this place called Missouri Western State University in St. Joseph, Missouri, home of oh goodness, who's the famous outlaw? Now I can't think of
Jesse
it.
James.
Jesse
James?
James. Yes, absolutely. And so right across the street from Missouri Western is a central office for an insurance company, and I never thought I'd work there. In insurance, I thought I had a bunch of different aspirations, and I just started working there. I became an underwriter, and so what an underwriter does is they work with agents on profitability and to write business and stuff like that. And then I had probably the biggest change in my life by moving to Madison, Wisconsin, and I kind of got escalated into adulthood. And
how old were you then?
oh geez, probably 29, 30.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, before that, I hadn't really ventured far from home. And then when I moved up there, it kickstarted. I became like a new me. Like I got to kind of develop into what am I as an adult. So I worked at the headquarters, which was awesome, and then worked in product management, some different things like that, which was really cool stuff.
Did you start at American Family in St. Joseph?
Yeah, yep.
You did. Okay.
Yeah. So my professional career.
So you've never worked anywhere else?
No.
He's a lifer.
Not
Holy
my.
cow.
I would say not in my professional career. I've done some stuff like Krispy Kreme donut. Advanced Auto Parts. I tried to wash trucks, semis for a day, and I quit after 2 hours. That's hard, stinky work when you're 14.
They're tall.
Yeah. Craig's tall enough to just wash it like this, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, and that was too hard for me. So I've been with the AmFam my whole life, and it kind of bleeds out my veins a little bit for sure.
Wow. All right.
Who knew the insurance biz was such a
Nobody
loyal
ever goes to
following.
school for insurance ever. There's a few degrees you could get for it, but people just arrive there.
Financial licenses, right? I mean, is that what you're talking?
No, an actual insurance. There's insurance degrees that you can
What?
get. Yeah, I've known one person that's got it, but everybody doesn't. They never go for insurance. They just end up there. They have a finance degree or a psychology degree or something like that, and then somehow they get into it, and then they never leave. We get you forever.
Is it rare?
It's a lot of effort to build a book.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
so it's not the kind of thing you want to walk away from, I would assume.
Yep. So when people think of insurance, they think of an agent. That's all there is to it. And in reality, there's just there's every kind of role a corporation has behind the scenes to support the agents, to support those insureds. So you have like a finance area, you have a legal area, you have process improvement areas, you have all of these things.
Well, the legal areas are the ones that are going to review this podcast.
Yeah, right.
And call you in a few days.
They're going to
Thanks,
determine
guys.
it.
Now I'm gonna have to carry the family.
They're going to determine if I'm still fit for service.
Right.
But yes, to build a book of business, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where I've only been for a year now, an agency. So
Yeah.
as I build things up, I think it'll be harder and harder to leave. Not just because, you're building this really cool book of business that you can reap the benefits from, but like you're making promises to people, and you're looking at them face to face, and you're making a promise, and then 2 years later you're going to say see ya, or not even say see ya, and
Right.
they get moved on to somebody else. Like I have more and more trouble ever thinking about getting out of it because of that.
Right, the commitments that you
Yep.
made, that personal connection.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Which is small. We talked about that numerous times on this podcast.
We have,
About
we have.
the connection. So let me ask you guys this. So you started in the corporate world. I'm assuming were like self-employed as a hairdresser. I mean, maybe even you
Like
worked
renting
in
a chair scenario.
Yes, yeah. So
Okay.
I actually, in the building I'm currently have my business, Bellissima Aesthetics, in. I actually was a hairstylist 6
Oh, you
years
gotta be
ago
kidding me.
in Sola already. So it's funny because it was a full turnaround, and I told the girls 6 years ago, I'm going to become a nurse. I'm going to start doing injectables, and I'll be back. And I was.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
So-
and I worked at
Sorry.
Mayo Clinic.
Okay,
to
so
circle
yeah,
back
so you
around.
went from self-employed, right, as a hairdresser, to a nurse and working in a giant corporation.
Yes.
My wife works in Mayo, so I get it. To back being self-employed. So I mean, you kind of ran the gamut as far as small business. is concerned.
Definitely. Yep.
Interesting. So, do you guys see? I mean, maybe you don't talk about it, but do you guys see similarities coming from AmFam corporate, Mayo corporate, or not whatever, to now your own thing? Is there? I mean, talk about that.
Well,
as far
what I
as,
think is really funny, even just personality-wise, with Tony and I, is we're very similar, as in we're very people-driven.
but you're more Italian.
But I'm definitely more Italian than Tony.
I want a second review on that.
I mean,
We got blood tests that proved it, but I want to recount.
okay. But yeah, so I think with us, we're just very similar. Like we thrive off people. When I was at Mayo, not only was I a nurse, but I was a nursing recruiter for Mayo, where I was able to travel and talk to people about Mayo Clinic. I helped with the nursing residency program, where I got to meet with other nurses, and I just really, I'm driven with, people driven. And Tony does a very similar thing with his corporate world. He did
For sure.
very
Yeah,
similar.
but I think too, we both have the corporate benefits that we were kind of getting used to.
Yes, that's true.
Like the stability and the pay time off.
trap.
Yeah.
The trap.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
it's great.
The stuff
Yeah.
you can never leave.
Right. I mean, honestly.
And I didn't. And then that's the thing is I didn't for probably 13 years, and I always wanted to do this since I became an underwriter. I always wanted to do this, and I knew that I could do it, but I got into the trap, of like the stability and the salary increase and the having kids and being off a few weeks to be able to be with them.
Well, and I think I even put more pressure on him, because what do you think happened when I had children and I left the corporate America, or I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for a while?
Right.
And then what happened? It became, well, you can't leave the corporate job because you have our insurance, you have our benefits, because that pressure was, I didn't have that anymore.
That's a very interesting dynamic between. We've talked about this before. Jerry and I have about spousal support when it comes to owning a small business, right? So
and not so much we hadn't really touched so much on the financial spousal support.
No,
but
emotional,
the emotional,
yeah.
the why are you never home? And you're right. I mean, that's a big deal. You've got to have that support, that structure at home.
But I mean, you guys kind of got it twofold, really, because you left, you needed the financial support, right? And then you wanted to start an agency for a long time, but you got into the trap, and then you want to start your business. Well, I mean, that's a heady decision right there.
I'm not
And
gonna
we
lie.
at the same time.
Well, I was just going to say that
Yeah.
Tony and I talk a lot about it, is for us, in a weird way, starting it at the exact same time was either the best decision of our life or the worst.
or the
because
dumbest,
if
right?
we always joke, like, we love each other, we have a very strong marriage, but that was we had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home. We both started brand new businesses. And what do you think happens when a kid is sick? Well, you stay home. Well, you stay home. Well, no, my business is more important. No, my business is more important.
Well, and as a corporate employee, you've got a lot of flexibility there. But also, too, she was a stay-at-home mom for a while when we started having kids. So I never had to take time off.
Yeah.
So then you get this juggling aspect of we don't like to say it, but like whose business is more important?
Well, see, now a fun fact: this is why rock, paper, scissors was invented.
You're not, I'm really good at that too, so I'm totally fine with
Somehow
that.
she beats me, but I'm really good usually. Typically, I win, not with her.
Yeah.
Well, and I think naturally, like as a woman, I wanted to stay home with my children, and I
Right.
naturally fell into kind of the traditional gender roles. I didn't mind doing the laundry, I didn't mind doing the dishes, and doing all of kind of those normal roles because my husband was the breadwinner.
Is.
But what do you? Easy now. What do you think happened when I started working? I naturally was like still doing those roles, so it became a lot because now I'm a new business owner and I have something else that equally needs my attention as
Right.
the house and the kids. And
And you don't want to live on white bread when you could have Italian bread.
exactly.
Yes.
There's
Yeah,
that.
Now I have
Throw
to
a
make a
little
correction
marinara.
to you two. It's not Italian. It's
Italian.
Italian. Because
Italian.
you don't
you
live in
wouldn't-
Italy.
exactly
See,
Yeah.
There we go.
I know
Hey, how do you pronounce the word aunt?
aunt.
Right.
Aunt?
No.
So in Chicago, so because that's where I was born, they call them aunts. Like they say aunts, whoever.
How do you say
Missouri, too.
the name Austin? You don't say Aston.
Well, it depends on how much you like him.
Well, maybe.
I know
That's a big.
I know a couple I would call Aston. I hadn't thought of that. I'll
That's
use
a-
that now.
That's a big argument in my family
That's
with
funny,
my
yeah.
brother and sister-in-law. But anyway,
Well, people talk weird up here anyways, Craig.
well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's because we're Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Boston last year to meet with a couple clients and the artist for our other company, and that's an accent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Wow,
I love that.
and
It's
it's
awesome.
the first place we went. We stopped like for fish and chips. Right, we're right on the wharf or the dock or whatever you want to talk it. We see them unloading the boats. Right. They're pulling the nets over and we're getting it right off the dock. And we have this waitress that's, I mean, 75 years old, I'm guessing. Just an absolute. She comes in and just looks frail, and you can't look frail with a Boston accent.
I mean, that's
you just
true.
can't. I mean, when she walks up and she's got the little hunch over, and she just sweet as could be. And then when she starts throwing that Boston accent and the R's out there, I was like,
Man.
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
you are one tough
That
old
is-
bird.
I
I
love to see
just,
that.
That accent, that and Scottish, right? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I mean, I know girls swoon for the Australians or whatever. but whatever. Who wants to go to Australia? Like, they have like literally everything there can kill you. In
Yeah, that's
Australia.
true.
True, and you can live in like 5% of like the space of the whole
Yeah.
continent. Like you're on the little edges.
Australia's dumb.
It's a long ride. It's a
it's
long,
a long
flight.
ride. Yeah. It's a long ride
Yeah.
too.
Right.
And pass. Yeah, pass.
Right.
I just
Interesting.
know. I couldn't imagine getting punched by a kangaroo.
They are
That's
scary.
the kind of story I want to
Dude,
tell
they like-
people.
They attack dogs. They put people in headlocks.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
Have you
they
seen
wanna
that? You
box
guys seen
you.
that video?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of them.
But now come home and tell the story that you got a black eye from
a kangaroo?
right? I mean, it's like you
Well,
can't
listen,
live that down.
I mean-
it doesn't matter how tough it was.
I don't care, but I would take that. Like,
Oh, I don't let a kangaroo punch me in the
Listen.
face. Yeah.
I'll take a punch from you any day. I took a punch from a freaking jack kangaroo. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I want to ask. So when you guys started having kids, so you were working at Mayo when you started having children, right?
Yes.
And then, but you quit there.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, how did you guys arrive at the decision to start
Bellissima.
Bellissima? How did you take? I mean, was that something you always had in the back of your mind when
Yeah.
you went back to nursing school?
Yeah, so back to when I worked at Sola as a hairstylist, I thought at the time, well, this is going to be great. I'm going to finish school, I'll dive into the medical aesthetics route, and then I can just keep this room and start working here. Well, I needed to start working at Mayo. I needed to obviously get married, have kids. It was just too many moving parts.
Sure.
So I ended up actually closing down the hair salon and knowing that eventually I'd get into it.
Okay.
And what I wanted to do was go part-time, kind of supplemental at Mayo Clinic, and I wasn't able to. That position wasn't available on my unit at the time. And so I decided, well, what's my option? Do I go back working more than I want to and not be able to stay home with my kids as much?
Yeah.
Or do I just say, okay, financially we can make this work for a while and I'll stay home with our children? I learned very quickly that is the hardest job in the whole wide world.
By far.
And as
Oh.
much as I adore my children, I needed something for myself.
I'm
too.
tired. I'm tired just from being their dad right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
How old are your
they're-
kids?
Well,
2 and 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
two and
Holy
4.
cow.
Yeah.
We're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
So my boys are Jody and I's boys. She always gets mad when I say mine. They're ours.
You did not make those babies. You give her
Right.
credit.
Well, I had a part in it.
I said the same
very,
thing.
very small part of it.
Wait a minute now. We're getting off. We're talking about something.
That's like claiming you own the car because you put gas in it. Come on.
But so our boys are 23 and 22 now. But she got accepted into the anesthesia program, and I lost my job at the same time. And we had that was an 03, so a 3 and a 1-year-old, and I stayed home for a year. Freaking horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
It's like Groundhog's Day every single day. You don't know what time it is. You don't know what day it is.
JJ, the jet plane, and Thomas, the freaking tank engine. It was so much. But so it's very, very hard. But it's very interesting that I thought, like I said, that you decided, okay, I'm now going to start a small business on top of raising 2 small children. Because, again, you were self-employed. You were in the corporate world. Yep. Now you both own a small business, and the trials and tribulations that come with that. Yep.
But I will say, I think I had a little bit more confidence because I was already a hairstylist. I had a clientele base, and I felt good. I'm like, you know what? I think going into it, because I've had people say, like, I can't believe you started your own business, and I keep thinking to myself, well, I wasn't going to let it fail. Like, I knew going into it, like, I can do this. I'm going to do this. I don't have an option. If I'm going to drain our savings account, I better be confident and make this work. And so I think that for us, that was something that was a priority. And I think that it was awesome that my husband supported that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think I honestly, I probably had more confidence in her, like starting her new business, than maybe she had in me starting my business. Not that I would fail, but like it's just like, you need to stay in the corporate world for the stability because of the kids. And
let's be honest, and I don't say this to be mean, but the insurance world is a grind, man, right? I mean,
but there's a lot of stuff you don't realize until you get into it. You know what I mean? It is
okay, that's what we touch on in every podcast and that's, I want to ask you a question. When you talked, I mean, the confidence that you have, and it's infectious. I mean, that's I love to hear those stories. But how many of your friends or family, I mean, in people in your life that you're close to, that you trust, that trust you, went, Liz, don't do this. What do you this is a bad idea. I mean, not everybody is going to be Tony that's going to have your back and be supportive. Yeah. So first off, I'm assuming you had at least one of those, if not some of those people in your life. How did you handle it?
I think for me, I kind of don't. It depends on the situation. If I feel like I need advice from somebody, I'll ask. I didn't necessarily ask like my family or my friends. It was kind of like, oh, I'm ready to do this. I'm going to do this. And it was kind of like, oh, you've always talked about that. Or, oh, you did always mention that you wanted to do that. So I don't feel like I had a lot of resistance that way. But I think the difference between being a hairstylist and doing the medical aesthetics route was financially, and the details and the types of things I needed to have in place. Medical attorneys, so that I could have all the legal paperwork. Well, that was $2,000. Opening up and order different types of medications I needed was, I mean, when I say thousands,
getting some Botox.
I mean, I'm talking about, I just put a $7,000 order in for my tax.
Liz, tell them about the machine.
The machine.
Yeah, you talked about this.
Yeah,
you talked about
this. The medical devices. I mean, you're talking about $100,000 to $300,000 for some of these devices. And telling Tony, so what do you think about maybe like $150,000 device? And he's like, well, it's like a small house. I'm like, well, it is, but we can't live in it, and it's very little. But yeah, to answer your question, I feel like I guess a couple things. One, my age. I had a little bit of confidence. I'm not 21 years old. I felt a little good going into it. I think that really helps, is my age. The fact that I've always wanted to do it, and when I did it, everyone was like, you've been saying you wanted to do this. I felt like I almost followed through with what I said I was going to do. Sure.
Well, there's a lot of folks out there that, I'm gonna play in the NFL. I'm gonna be president. Whatever. And it just never happens. So it is great to see someone follow through on that. And I think a lesson, again, the crowd that we're trying to talk to in this podcast is to give them the inspiration to give up on their dreams or to follow their dreams. I mean, there's no middle ground. And
you got to do it.
What one piece of advice I think I would have, and I'd like your opinions on this, all three of you guys. When you start a small business, most of us have somebody in our corner that isn't in our corner, right? That this is a bad idea. Have you thought this through? And they start telling you all the horror stories of people that they've known and whatever. And what I learned when I go to start a business, real similar to what you're saying, I get my mind set on it, and I'm going to get it done. And I will do the research to figure out if I think I can make it or not.
Yes.
And when I was young and doing this, I really felt the need. I knew who those negative people were, right? We all know who they are in our lives, whoever they be. But I felt the need to win them over. And I'm going to tell you, that's dumb as hell. I mean, don't, if your parents,
Because you never will.
You're never really not until you're better off not trying to. Now this is from my family. I don't know how dysfunctional we put the fun in dysfunctional. That's how I always like to count it. But I don't know how dysfunctional your families are. But I have those people in my family that they were, oh, that's a dumb idea. This is bad. You've got a family to take care of. You've got responsibilities. Man up. Blah blah blah. Then when you make your first chunk, like, I knew you could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You're
it's
like, wait a second.
It's like, so you don't have. But I figured out the only way that I'm going to win them over is to be successful.
Yeah.
And if I'm successcul, all of a sudden this was going to be their idea. I'm glad we pushed you into this, bud.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what? But so I mean, what do you guys? I think that it's just futile to try and win them over when you're in the process, when you haven't made it yet, when you're in the when you're following your dream. If they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it, and they're gonna and you're better off not trying to win them over, because that just gives them a podium to tell you what a bad idea it is. That's my opinion. What do you guys think of that?
I don't know. I feel like for me, I was already in the insurance industry, so people that I was talking to, they were like, "Yeah, you should do this. You would be a great agent." So nobody was really against it, or like, "Hey," I had people tell me like, "Hey, insurance people are kind of sleazy," or like car salesmen, like, and it can come across that way. Have you guys ever felt that way?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I hate insurance, right? But it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not American Family or State Farms or
Yeah.
Flows. Is it?
Yes, it is. It's not Tony's fault, but these companies.
It's the corporate.
One thing I will say about that, we've talked about this in business. I said, people come to me for answers.
Yeah.
And I tell them every time, I don't have the answers, but I'll probably come up with a lot more questions than you did. And we were just talking about this extended warranties. I was talking with a friend of mine this afternoon, as a matter of fact, and he said, "You buy that garbage, blah blah blah," and it was like, "Do you?" I do at times. I do at times. We were. I'm gonna throw Best Buy. To throw the name out there. I said, when I buy an extended warranty from Best Buy, I ask them. It's gonna haunt me. I asked them if Geek Squad, if Best Buy and their Geek Squad, are you guys like an authorized vendor repair facility for this product? When they say they are, I'm not buying the warranty. I don't want their 14-year-olds working on it, but when they say, well, we're not, okay, so if I buy the extended warranty on this and it shits the bed, pardon my French, I just come back and get another one. Yep, yeah, because we won't fix this because we're not authorizing this. Sign me up. I'm in. But that's what Jeff said too. Or my friend, he's like, really? I didn't take you for a warranty guy.
I didn't either. That's why I asked the question.
But here again, I've always been anti-warranty forever until I learned the questions to ask.
Yeah.
And that's that's a big thing in insurance.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever had any of my agents or people approach me on insurance. Sleazy would definitely not be the word I would choose.
Right. Me too. I wouldn't use that word.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that word. But I will say this: if you're at a party, I'm not going to talk to the insurance agent. Right? If I'm looking for a good time. Yeah. I'm not going to go grab the insurance agent and go, let's talk insurance. Right?
Well, I'm not going to talk insurance, but I mean,
it's a boring topic.
It is very boring.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And two,
I mean, are we going to talk about freaking cars?
Broke the seal, folks.
Sorry.
There it is.
Hey, how'd that break
Tony
job
and Liz are not
go?
responsible for that, by the way.
But these are two professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that, and I never felt that it was like sleazy, but like I've had a few people when I was talking about it say, they seem kind of, they seem kind of slimy or kind of pushy.
It's in a sales.
Or like
I think
super
people look at
but it's
sales as like, ooh,
plaid
they're
jacket
not.
and a bow tie.
Well, and they're just gonna kind of sell you whatever they have to sell you.
Yeah, and I will say this about you, Tony, and before I do what I do now, and before I was in the auto glass world, right? So I talked to a lot of agents, and I know a lot of them in and around Rochester and in other towns, and I could tell some of them were just genuinely good people,
Yeah.
right? They have to sell insurance. We have to have it. I mean, there's no getting around it. So we have to have it. So I've always said, like, when it comes to insurance agents, like, look, don't sell me. All I want, if I have a claim, just take care of my claim, right? And make sure that I'm covered. You talked about it in BNI, about your last presentation that you did. You talked about, and the one that you and Bill did was fantastic because people don't understand what they don't have.
Right.
And I think if you, and I'm trying to praise you here, like you don't present yourself as I'm going to sell you as much insurance as I possibly can. Your approach has been, look, this is why you need this, and you can decide not to buy it if you want, but you have to have insurance, and this is what I'm offering. Absolutely. So I don't see I don't see that, like Jerry, I don't see it as a sleazy role.
No.
It is a sales role, but there's different ways to approach it.
But what I wanted to, when you and Bill were doing that presentation, and they did a presentation at a networking meeting. We should fill the folks in on this a little bit. And the gist of it was a customer came to them as an insurance agent, said, I want to buy the cheapest insurance. They need the bare minimum. I don't want to pay for this. They gave him the bare minimum. Then we had a claim. His claim wasn't covered. Now, the sleazy part to me is the way a lot of policies are written, a lot of coverages are written. They're written to not cover everything. I mean, they are, in a lot of cases, I think, at a glance, when I'm not an agent, they're not crystal clear.
It's very complex.
It's very complex. Now that doesn't mean it was made to be complex to be deceitful.
Right.
But it's very complex. So if I have an agent,
because lawyers got involved.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't speak lawyer. I don't. I have lawyers for that. I don't take my lawyer with when I buy insurance.
Right.
Right. So I expect my agent, and I wanted to stand up in the middle of your presentation so much when you were playing the client and Bill was the agent. I wanted to go, you asked for the cheap, you got cheap. Get out. I wanted to, as a client, because you're like, you got what you asked for. And that's one thing that Bill never addressed, that I would thought I love that presentation.
It was really good.
With the exception of that, I'm like, at some point, you made your point, of course, but at some point, the piece that was lost, which you guys weren't going for that. I know that wasn't the premise of it. But for me, it's like, I still think that we should be teaching from our 2 and 4-year-olds to our 22 and 24-year-olds. Teach them to take responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're going to walk into when you look at an insurance policy, it's complicated.
It is. Yep.
If you're not an agent, you don't understand every piece of it. I'm not saying that everyone's stupid.
No.
But my point is, if you get in there and it's that complicated and you can say words like, I want the best rate, I want the cheapest this, I just want minimum, whatever. Okay, you're not asking the questions. You need to, if I come buy insurance from you, it's going to, you are going to hate it by the end of the conversation, because I'm going to ask you 37 different questions on when you say, well, the minimum is this, and what's the average accident cost? You know, and I'm a car guy, so I know what cars cost. I don't know what it takes when I break a leg. I fortunately, knock on wood, I haven't had that, right?
Yeah.
When I had a hip replaced, it was $100,000. Okay, well, that's a lot of money when you have a 30, 60, 30, or how does that go again? You're talking your minimums.
30, 60, 10. So
30, 60, 10.
Yep.
So if I smash a hip and have to have a new one put in, that's $100,000.
Oh yeah,
and that was with me scheduling it. I don't know. It's like you come on a stretcher, emergency where you come through the emergency room. I don't know, but that's the thing. These folks that they come in and it doesn't care what you're buying. If you're buying a car, you're buying insurance. My point is with insurance, if you take 2 minutes to look at it, you understand. You don't understand it.
Yeah.
And now we need you. Well, and I don't take that as slimy at all. But I do think that the agents that can get you in and out of their office in 20 minutes, that they're not helping anybody. But people are. And I say this a lot. People are dumb, and I don't mean that as bad as it sounds. It's more of an attention getter type statement. But people are. I don't know insurance.
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't. Right. You can't.
And we never want to. We all think, right. And we all think that our time is more important than to sit down with you for an hour or whatever it takes.
Well, I have to have it, so let's get over it.
Let's get it, right? Yeah.
Something I have to have.
And I'll tell a story. I was with Rob Benson before here in your old office, and he looked at my policy and he told me, I'm sure my previous agent said, hey, come in for a review. And I'm like, F it, right? And he looked at it and he said to me, he's like, Craig, if your house burned down, I don't think you can rebuild your house today for what you're insured for. And I'm like, really? I need my house, right? So I mean,
It's, make a call.
yeah. So that's where, you know, again,
Absolutely.
like not sly or sleazy. I don't see that, but like, you know, but it's you got to be informative.
Yeah.
It's a
Yep.
sales role.
I appreciate that.
And it comes, part of that comes from having good clients.
Yeah.
And the one thing we like to talk about here too is that it's okay to fire clients.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Sometimes
that.
you got to divorce them. You
You
know.
do.
Yeah.
It's okay
Yeah.
to do that. It's okay. And with that, it's not a decision you should ever take lightly.
No.
You know, I'm not saying it's something that you just flippantly do, but you do have to take it serious. But what that means, you have to kind of diagnose every one of your clients. And when you've got that client that just wants the cheapest, we talk about this in our business. People come in, well, if I bring my own alternator in, will you put it in? We did that for years because your business grows. You're going to do things, and this is just, I shouldn't project this on you, but Ryan Hagelin, we were talking about this last night. He said that Roscoe was a friend of ours, owned Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs for years. He talked Ryan into putting together a program to pick up everyone's old Christmas trees after Christmas and disposing of them for free if they would allow him to come back in the spring and do a free consultation on their landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, Ryan was new and kind of a newbie, you know, and his schedule wasn't full. And because the question that I asked last night was, give us a story where you did something at the time, thought it was a great idea, looking back, and you're like, that was terrible. That was dumb. What was I thinking? That was Ryan's story. And he said, Roscoe talked me into picking up Christmas trees for free so I could go back and do a free consultation in the spring. And he said, free.
I would say there's two words there that don't make sense in a small business.
Right.
Free.
But then, so we had the same laugh last night. And I said, okay, but let's break that down. After everybody agreed that was a dumb thing to do, I said, let's break it down. Today, you're busy. We are busy. And he went through, and he's a big company now.
Yeah.
I said, so if I propose to you today to do that, pick up the Christmas trees for free so you can get a free consultation in the spring, I said, that's a bad suggestion. That's a bad idea. And we're all laughing, go, yeah, absolutely. I said, when Roscoe did that for you, or made that suggestion to you, were you busy? I mean, were you busy Monday, Tuesday, and then had Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe a little work on Friday to clean up? Or were you stacked busy? He goes, oh no, we had hours open in the day. Mm-hmm. I was like, so it really wasn't that bad of an idea. I said, let me back up a minute. Your free consultation of spring, did you sell anything off of that? He goes, well, actually, yeah, we did sell some stuff off of that. I'm like, so for a young business, for a guy that's hungry, you're trying to get started, and you had time in your schedule, it really probably wasn't an embarrassing
Yeah, that's
story.
a thinking
It
out of
wasn't
the
a bad
box
thing.
marketing. So that leads me a question for you. I mean, so I know nothing about Brotox or what else, lip filler, and
Microneedling.
I do know that because I had that done on my foot. But
No,
that's
no,
a
no,
different
it's
story.
a little different. Microneedling's it's a little stamp, and it has like 24 hot needles, and it stabs you.
Not exactly, but kind of. It resurfaces the tissue. Are you thinking like acupuncture?
No, I had
Did you have
I had needling done on my Achilles tendon. It was
so
horrific.
Yeah, needling I think is what like a physical therapist
Yeah.
would do.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is a little different, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Anyway,
needles
so-
are involved.
Right. So
Beauty is painful.
yeah. Well, listen. For those at home, you can't see that. That was me
lewd gesture.
looking. Yeah,
But he's flipping his hair.
yeah.
Yeah, flipping his hair.
No. So when you started, so you've been a year in October. What did you do for? I mean, were you had previous clients? You said in as a when you were a hairdresser. Did you reach out to them? What did you do for marketing? How do you market your business? How many of you are there in Rochester? Is there a lot of you?
So there's, I would say, a lot, not necessarily, but there's different types of us. So for example, there's big medi spas in town.
Sure.
That would be kind of offer everything, have lots of different people, have bigger, not necessarily bigger, but different devices. Where like I'm a solo person in a very small location. So I think it depends. Some people like the idea of the big medi spa that has every service service that they possibly could need in that one area. Where for me, I'm just a little solo person, don't offer a ton of stuff, but I would say I'm good at the things that I offer.
Sure.
And to answer your question, when I first started, I started to advertise that I was going to do it. And luckily, I have friends in the industry who I
Sure.
started doing services on them. And
Whoa.
I feel like women, and maybe men, but like in general, we trust people, right? So when you go to your hairstylist and your hairstylist says, oh my gosh, I get these services done by this person, I trust her with my face. That's kind of how I build my business more than necessarily like I should be better at social media. But I would say word of mouth for me has been definitely a bigger benefit than probably
But we
most.
live on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that
and
referral.
like to talk about like free, first of all, I do free consultations for any of my services. And when you book an appointment with me, whether it's a free consultation or if it's your first service, I will go in and even edit and add more time because I want you to feel like from the moment you walk in the door until you leave that you can ask any question. We can take as much time as we
I
need.
can imagine there's a lot of questions, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I try to cover everything. Again, you don't know what you don't know. And,
Right.
and in general, you should really ask a lot of questions when you're getting these types of treatments done because medicine's involved, needles are involved, your face is involved.
I mean, if you're going to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, they can
Yes.
droop your eyebrow or
There's a whole show
yeah.
on like TLC.
Botch,
about-
yeah.
it's botched.
I mean, I'm not a plastic surgeon, but yeah, and like that's the thing, right? Is like things can happen, and like
Right.
nothing is flawless completely. But at the end of the day, like for me, I would say, and women especially, we very much value our girlfriends' opinions, right? And so I think that for me, that's how I built the
That's
majority
interesting.
of my business. And I do one lady who's like, oh my gosh, I got this done for either the first time or had this service done. She tells two of her friends. I feel like if I can get somebody into my door and they can meet me and we can do a service on them, the majority of my patients do return.
She's a closer.
Sure.
She's the closer out of the family.
Well, I mean, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask was how you draw people in because, I mean, you're in the beauty business, right? So it's like for me,
Which is a
well, it's like
$100 billion industry.
yeah. Oh,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
my
huge
world's
industry.
very little. Like the aesthetics world, it was
Right.
very. I mean, I'm 37 years old.
It's not something someone has to have.
It's not something,
Right.
it's a luxury service, right? Okay. And husbands, there's a very bad misconception with just injectables in general. So, what I will say is, I'm a walking billboard for my business, right? So, as a husband, as a wife, whoever's looking at somebody's face, if I looked crazy, you're not going to come to me, right? Like, if
I don't know, that
I
might be a different kind of party. But.
right, like if I look wonky or all weird, like you're not going to come to me, right? So
Right.
I consider myself, I would say, a more conservative injector is kind of how I would describe myself because I do everything that I have done or will offer at my business. I've already done on myself or to myself, right? Like we've had
Sure.
treatments done on myself, but I am my walking billboard, and I feel like if somebody comes in, I want, like I said, ask me all the questions you possibly could think of because there's so much to this industry that you want to get those questions answered. And back to the kind of the husband thing, I think in general, I've one of your BNI members, he was asking about me, like, well, what do you have done to your face? And I said, well, this is what I have done. This is what I have done. Whatever. I let him know. And he's like, well, you don't look. He was trying to compliment me with like he didn't know how to compliment. He's like, well, you look nice. And so because I don't look like the Botch TV show, right?
No.
So,
Well, that's
No.
it's when you're trying to market what you do. It's like a weight loss center. You don't want to be excited every time a fat guy walks in, right? Hey, you're fat. This is great.
Hey, we got a deal for you.
Hey,
Well, when somebody comes in with no insurance, like that's a bad thing for us too, because we can't ride them usually. Yeah, nobody cares. That's all.
nice, that's a nice try, Tony. I really appreciate you trying to fit in. That's,
Yeah, I was just trying to get some insurance stuff in there, but the thing is like also in the beauty industry, like some of these services are very, very expensive, so you have to ask these very detailed questions because it's an investment, and so like it's an investment in yourself, and things could go wrong. So it's interesting to hear the stories in how
I never
Yeah,
thought
absolutely.
of the like you said it was a malpractice insurance or whatever they
Oh,
have to
yeah.
carry.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
I know
yeah, you
what-
think about speaking of insurance,
Right.
I have to have malpractice. I have a lot of different insurances just strictly to run my business.
Or you're dealing with someone's face. You don't want them. I mean, if you bring your car to me and it runs bad, and I give it back to you and it runs worse, that's terrible. if you come to you ugly and you leave uglier, that's gotta be a tough sell. I mean, if something
Let's be
bad
honest here. I
happens,
mean, you
right?
and I are kind of at the bottom anyway. Like,
Right. I mean,
this
what
is about
could
it.
go wrong?
Right.
That's
This is
Exactly.
fine.
It's like that'd be
Like, I mean, if I get a bit of a droop on my left side, it's gonna be fine.
I mean, for me, I'd even go for the sympathy factor.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh.
It's not
Guy is so nice, but his face is weird.
Oh, man.
but you feel sorry for him.
Is that what it's like to hit rock bottom?
Yeah, right. Every day, Tony. Every day. Hey, I wake up rock bottom every day.
So the goal for this episode is always that 35 to 45 minute. I tell everybody that. Can you believe that we're at 43 minutes?
Yeah.
So
So what's the
quick.
goal?
the goal is 45 minutes.
And be done?
And be done.
Oh, we got so much to talk about.
Right. Now last night's episode was an hour and 38 minutes.
Holy
So-
cow! No
Oh,
kidding.
wow.
Yeah, I've
That's
had
a movie.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. It
It's not the
absolutely
Titanic, but it's
Is. Yeah, well, it portions. It felt like
I say,
there's a couple spots that didn't go so well. But
why
this
aren't
is-
they turning?
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you're having a good time and you have interesting things to talk about, and we have insurance too. You know, there's
Yeah.
that. So-
There's interesting. Then there's like I'm the tossing. All of a sudden I'm the tossing.
There's Brotox, and then there's
Yeah.
there's
Nobody even asked me what have I got done as a test dummy. Nobody even asked me.
oh well.
well, maybe I mean,
Well,
yeah.
tell us, don't show us.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Yeah.
I never got Brotox.
Can I say it? I want to
say it.
I mean, Liz at the beginning here, before we started this, she talked about like the tox that she does, right? And she's like, yeah, there's Brotox, and which is funny in itself, but it doesn't hold a candle to Scrotox.
Oh,
So
I can
do
tell
not
you,
show us that.
Tony's
Do not
not
having
show
that
us
time.
that.
but isn't that for like sweating or something?
On your scrotum,
Yeah. What's that for?
babe? No.
Oh, is it for something else?
Okay.
Anyway, Tony is not a good walking billboard because he actually has only had microneedling done. So,
And that
but
was
he
because
uses
she wanted
my-
to test the machine out. And
But
then-
he's using my skin. He does use my skincare.
Can I tell you guys what happened?
Is that the most painful thing you do?
It
The
is
needling?
Does it hurt?
So
It hurts
listen,
so
it
bad.
doesn't. Okay, so first of all, you numb your face first of all with a different
with
type
a hot fire stick.
okay.
Just kidding.
Okay, and when I tell you my women patients, no offense to men, but there's a reason why we call it the man flu. Men are the
listen, we're
biggest
pussies.
babies.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
women
so,
are
like,
tough as
I
nails.
will do people's face and neck with this very, very nice device that, like I said, is designed to resurface your tissue, make you have a youthful, softer, whatever appearance. Tony, I only did his eyes on up, okay? Just
I had
the
a
top
beard.
half
I
of his
shaved
head,
recently, yeah.
and he was practically crying.
I
And
had
he's
this little
like-
vibrating deal on my chest, and I was upside down. It got to the point where I felt like she didn't even know me because she goes, "I'm not going to be able to finish the service if you don't stop." And I was like, "Are you my wife? Like, why would you ever talk to me like
like,
that?"
this really hurts. I'm like, listen, this is unimpressive, and I need you to go.
So I walked away thinking I had so much confidence in her. You know, I gave her the green light to buy this $130,000 machine. After that, I go, I doubt that you're going to be successful with this business, and I really felt that way.
He's
It hurt
it.
so bad.
He's the one that says
He's the guy.
I was the one.
He's the guy. He's the guy. Try not to
he's
win
my
him over.
negative guy over here.
Don't try to win him over.
Why-
Just show him up.
I got
Yeah.
it.
I was like, why would anybody ever pay for this?
Well, so one of my questions would be, if you were doing this to my face, it's like, will tears ruin this? Because we need to know that because they're going to flow. I am going to cry like a
I will
little
tell
bitch.
you, there's a reason why women have babies.
That's
Leave it
100%
to us,
sure.
guys.
That is
Yeah.
100% correct.
Did Liz ever tell you about my baby? I know this is a business podcast, but I had a kidney stone.
We're about people.
Oh,
We're
okay.
about people, Tony. It's good.
Okay,
Share
well,
your story.
I delivered a kidney stone. And
Delivered.
yeah, and it was like having a child.
Mm-hmm.
Except for mine had spikes. It was a kidney stone with spikes.
And it was that big.
It was.
So when I had my first child, Tony told the doctors, we've already had a child. And they looked at us, and Tony said I had a kidney stone, and I wanted to
I
just
had
kill
the
him.
photo. I probably still do, but it looks like something
Holy
off Moyer Brothers, like a spike.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to share stories, I had a kidney stone. I was in the hospital overnight. I come home, and I come around the back corner, and my daughter was tiny at the time. She was a baby. I mean, I'm going to say less than a year old. I come walking up on my back deck. I come around the corner of the back door, and my screen door is like hanging off of one hinge, and it's twisted. And I went, and I grabbed the wife, and I said, "Hey, go next door. Something, someone's broke into the house. Let me walk through. We'll call the cops." And she's just standing there staring at me like I'm an idiot. And I'm like, "Honey," and she hasn't seen the door yet. I'm like, "The door's like hanging off the house. Seriously, go to the neighbors, get in the car, go to your mom's, do something. I'll call you." And she started, and then she goes, "You have no idea, do you?" "What?" Well, apparently, when I had my kidney stone, I was in the fetal position on the kitchen floor because I'm a big puss. And then she's going to drive me to the hospital because it wasn't passing, wasn't going away. So I couldn't get the screen door open because I wasn't on the handle side of the screen door. So I literally ripped the screen door off of its hinges and left it hanging there as we went to the hospital. I come home 2 days later, a day later, and it's hanging. I thought somebody broke in the house, and so I'm a big puss.
Yeah.
And
I don't like pain. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I could.
I'm just going to have to stick with
What do you call it? Needling. I don't think-
Microneedling, yeah.
Microneedling.
It's heat, hot 25 hot little needles that penetrate the tissue to cause some local trauma to the tissue. It heals and it gives you new collagen and elastin, and it's just very nice.
I will say the people that have gotten it done, they've had wonderful results. Like, and I've seen it like within days, which is crazy. And they said it wasn't as painful as I experienced. So I think either the numbing didn't work, or I have a very sensitive face.
It's a good thing men are not my main clientele. Hey, I'll take you guys.
I just want to clarify because I still have to go home with this woman. I don't want to get beat, so
Right.
just want to get clarified a few things.
I would love to support your business, but I'm going to stick with ugly.
That's okay.
That's my stand
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, there's not much you could do for us, so I get
Yeah.
it for women, but it's an interesting business because I know where Soul is. 'Cause, I mean, I live by there, so I may go to Apollo next door on occasion. Are you do you need more business?
Yeah, I mean, I can always use more
Yeah.
business. It depends on the day. There's a day where I'm booked morning to night, beginning to end, and there's days where it might be a little bit more sporadic. And like I said, it's a luxury service, so it depends. The holidays are coming, so people tend to want to look nice for the
Right.
holidays. In the summertime, it tends to be slower because people are on vacation. So
So
Yeah.
this goes for both of you. What can we do with this podcast to reach out to your customer base? I mean, your customer base is anybody that drives or lives in a house.
Exactly.
I mean, cardboard box are hard to
Yep.
insure.
It would be hard.
you
But
know,
I would say though, with like Tony though, like I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the insurance world is. So I'll be honest. So we were with State Farm for. We had a policy that my wife had that was written in 1975, because State Farm is like one of the only insurance companies that like keeps policies in force. They just add a vehicle to it, whatever.
Oh, yeah. They
So
keep
it's
all-
super
yeah.
old, whatever. But I just never really. I didn't want to take the time. So like, how as a small business insurance agency, can you let reach people? Say, listen, I'm not going to be sleazy. I'm not going to sell you shit that you don't need.
Yeah.
But let me look at your stuff. You say it all the time. Just let me look at your stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And if you've got, and I've had other agents do it. I still have a boat and jet ski policy with State Farm because it can't be beat. Yeah. And the agents told me that. Like, listen, leave it there.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one thing. Like, nobody that has ever heard me out of BNI, and that's the networking group that we're a part of.
Yep.
In there or in our one-to-ones, which is I think is just as valuable. No one's ever heard me say, "Hey, can I quote your stuff, or can I write your insurance?" Because I don't do that. Because honestly, like for me, what's important is that you understand what you're insured for, what your gaps
Good point.
are.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And half my business comes from BNI. It's been very fruitful, and it took a while to build relationships to get to that point. And by not asking for business, it maybe slowed down that, but I think it built up the equity of what I really want to do is help people. So, I mean, even if it's not with me, like talk to your insurance agent or anything that you're buying, like have accountability for what
Right.
you're buying, because your assets are one of the most important things that you have.
Yeah.
And there's gaps, and I guarantee you, like everybody has gaps in their insurance unless you have the best agent in the world, but not me or whatever. But like
Because you are the best
yeah,
agent.
the best.
Right.
But the thing is, you said these aren't dumb people that have these gaps. Like, and I've seen it firsthand where they're
Right.
like, "Hey, I want full coverage," and I was telling you about this. And they don't understand what that actually means and what
Right.
they're getting and what they're not getting and the gaps that they have. And these are very smart people that are very successful, and they just haven't taken the time to understand it or talk to somebody.
Most people are smart at what they do, and they're dumb as shit.
Absolutely.
in the
Yeah.
process.
Well, the story I always like to tell, I told it at BNI when I did my presentation. I said, people are dumb.
Yeah.
And everybody looks at me. I said, well, let's start with Mark. And I said, Mark Nelson. And he looked at me like, what? And the story that, we're all in business. Obviously, we're intelligent people. I mean, we've got the drive. Well, I mean, within reason.
Right.
Within reason. But, now, a few years ago, I called Mark. Mark Nelson owns Service Pros Plumbing. Great guy. He's going to be on the show here. We're going to do it the day before Thanksgiving. We're going to film that one or record that one. Anyway, I called him. I said, hey, my toilet's running at Broadway Car Care at the auto shop. And he goes, well, what's going on? Or I said, the toilet needs fixed. And he goes, what's going on? I said, well, it just keeps running. He goes, oh, it's probably just a flap. I'm like, yeah, I looked at it. It's just the flap's not working. He goes, okay, you can get that at the hardware store for like $12. It'll take you 10 minutes to put it in. I was like, okay, great. So do you have those on your truck? Well, yeah, perfect. When can you fix it? You know what? How's your schedule look? He goes, Jerry, you put motors in cars. You can fix a flap for a toilet. I was like, right, but I said, people poop in there. I'm out. And he's just like quiet, and he's trying to help me, obviously, you know. And I told him, I said, see, people are dumb. I really don't want to play with the toilet. I don't. I mean, I clean it, but I clean it with a stick that long. That's as close as
as far away as you can.
That's as close as I'm getting. That's how this works. And it's just, I said, and he said, so I've heard Mark tell that story more than once, and it's like, and I had him come down and fix it. And I don't remember what it cost me. Well, $75, $100, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. But it was done. It was done right. And I didn't buy, and I don't know if there's a difference between the $12 one that I get at the hardware store and the whatever price his was. I have no idea, and I don't even know if his was more. It might not have been.
Who knows?
But the point is, I know if he puts it in, it's going to be a quality piece. Right. And so it's like, don't make me beg to have you come and do my stuff, you know? And
Business 101, small business 101, don't make it hard for people to give you money.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, but what you do when you tell folks you don't have to work with me, you don't need this. I do the same thing to people all the time. All the time. We do that. But when you've offered that, that's your due diligence, right? I offered, here, you can do this.
Yeah.
And then they come back and go, when's your first opening? Tell them when your first opening is.
Yeah.
Don't reiterate that they can do it themselves, because nobody wants to be made to feel dumb either.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But it's like, do your due diligence. Tell them, you can do this. And when they still ask for the time or the appointment or whatever, then move on and help them and do what you do. And like I said, make it easy for them to pay you, to come in and utilize your business and impress them and make them want to tell their friends. And
that goes directly to your business.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, like you said, you're our walking billboard for your product. And then obviously with your friends and your clients that are, get a picture done for holidays now coming up, and you look at them like, what have you been doing? Right?
Yeah.
See, I can't get past this. Every time something new, a new topic comes up with your business, I just keep thinking of all the ways to market to ugly people going, looking at last year's Christmas vacation going, you really should have come and seen, right?
Do you know what? Honestly, what was really good for this industry was Zoom calls. Because what do you think you're doing? You're staring at yourself in a camera. Women are seeing themselves scowling, or you're on a screen and you're making different faces that you maybe didn't realize that you made all day long. But now that you're watching yourself in a camera, I will say that the Zoom calls definitely help this industry a lot.
I never thought about that, because you see yourself in the mirror when you're getting ready in the morning. You don't see yourself in the mirror talking to someone and making expressions. And
typically you see yourself in the mirror and it's like usually decent lighting, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's acceptable, passable. Then you get on a Zoom call with like one little candle there, and then it's like you're shadowy, and like
you get dark circles,
or you got that 250 watt light bulb your husband. Jesus, that's like the surface of the sun.
Like you just come out of the crypt.
Yep. Yeah. So Zoom calls did great things for our industry.
Well, talk about lighting. I mean, like in here, I have these LED lights, and we have sunshade or whatever they are, the diffusers from other old lights tied up with yarn. It's so ghetto. I have no idea. But trying to get the light right in here, and I know it's not right, but it's still not right. But it's better, you know. And now with Tony sitting over there, I'm looking at this. You actually look way better. You look good over there. That's right. See, partially her, so a little bit to the lighting, but mostly her.
Who outkicked their coverage then? Sounds like Liz outkicked her coverage.
Let's not get carried away.
The tears would argue that.
Right on.
So we've what don't
I want
care.
to say one thing.
Yes.
So it's, again, part of this whole podcast, we said at the beginning, was to help people make a decision.
Yep.
Right? Should I start a business or shouldn't I or whatever? And so I want to say for you two, it's pretty inspirational that the fact that you guys both started a small business. I know you were the hairdresser thing, but this is a bigger step.
Yeah.
Agreed,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yes.
So to start this.
Well, it seems crazy, honestly.
Yeah.
If you said that out loud, and I am not a negative, don't do this kind of person. Yep. But if you guys would have came to me and said, we're going to both do, I was like,
Yeah.
but
But
I
late in
applaud you,
life.
but let's split them up a little
mean,
bit. You know, let's
yeah,
spread it
yeah.
out a little.
Late in life, because you were established in the corporate world,
Yeah.
like Jerry said, the trap, and I've been there,
Yeah, yeah.
right, and I'll never go back.
Mm-hmm.
You were kind of there, right, because you had to work at Mayo because
Yep.
you had to get a job,
Yep.
and make money and stuff, and then to start two businesses almost at the same time,
Yep.
later
Terrifying.
in life, at 22 and
39.
62, and at such later times in life, is
Yeah.
really, I mean, kudos to you guys
Yeah,
for doing
absolutely.
it, because it's
Absolutely.
that's a pretty big undertaking. So you guys should be very proud of it.
I didn't know what I was getting into, so you're giving me a lot of credit. Like I knew that I was going to be in. Is
But
going
that
to
is
be so
a
hard.
perfect example.
Oh, no, we
of-
know better. That's what we base this
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah.
on is the question I was just going to ask when Craig said I want one more thing was one of the questions I like to ask people, and with you guys being so new in it, I'm guessing you'll have some fresh experiences.
Yeah.
But I tell folks, I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how much research you put in. I don't care how much support you have around you. Once you actually get in business, or even before you're in it, but once you make that decision, you start working towards it, you are going to get hit from eight different directions on things that no matter how much effort and intelligence you have to work with, you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And that's being a small business owner.
You said it earlier. It's one of my favorite sayings is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You
Yeah,
just don't know,
Yep.
and it doesn't matter what business you're in. I got to imagine the aesthetic business is much different than the insurance business.
Yep.
Right. So your challenges are different than your challenges, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just it's a great.
People are actually nice to her. they want to work with her. And they're excited to see her. Everybody's like, I got to drag them in to get them in the office.
because it's
Yeah.
something they really want.
Yes.
Yeah.
They come to you because, God
We
damn
have
it,
to.
we have to have it.
Yep.
And it doesn't make me happy.
Yeah.
One thing that, talking about, like when you're getting started, right? Insurance business, if I ask you a question that you don't know the answer to,
Yep.
right? You have resources. You have, I don't want to say upline. I don't know how you, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
but you have someone that you can call.
Back of the
and you
house,
have-
maybe.
Yeah, being attached to a corporation, you have a ton of resources. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, any question that we have, I can find the answer based on those resources. And,
Okay.
like, knowing where to go is, like,
Right.
the big part,
Right,
which is
so
different than her.
It's
yeah.
like learning
Yeah.
the hierarchy. So now we come to you. If I ask you a question that you don't have the answer to,
It's a great question.
where do you go? What kind of supports do you? What
Yeah.
kind of support do you have?
Great question. So, kind of back, we were talking earlier about even just in the city limits of Rochester, right? Like how many different providers there are. And I'm all about community over competition. Like to me, I would rather network with my other aesthetic providers and be on the same page so that when I do have a question or something comes up, I do have a medical director that I have to work under. And she is a very supportive, amazing person who I've developed a friendship with, and we support each other. So she would be my first line of defense. But because of the fact that I do have so many people in this industry that are luckily supportive, this industry can be very, very cutthroat.
I was wondering.
Is that right?
I was just
Oh,
going to
yeah.
ask: is this a supportive community or is it a catty
Yeah.
community?
So it's both. It
Okay,
is,
okay.
to be completely honest, like I said, luckily there are some of the bigger medi spas in town, some of the ladies I am friends with, and luckily I do feel comfortable. If something really came down to it that I needed help or support or a question or product or whatever, I do feel like I could go to a lot of the different places in
I almost
town.
wonder if it's a little bit like with your guys last night, right? You know, they all kind of overlap.
Yeah, but they don't do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They don't focus on the exact same.
And I got to imagine that in your world, like you said, you only do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I'll use you as an example. You don't do transmissions,
No.
right? So you tell them to go to Q. So, but you don't do tires. Tell them to go to
Right.
discount. So do you do that same thing? Like,
Yeah.
do you
Oh,
have,
yeah.
Do you
Yep.
have another? I can never say that damn word.
Aesthetics? Bellissima?
No.
What? Medical? Which word?
Bob.
Botox? Botox?
No, that's a big one. No.
Which one?
You're an esthetician.
Okay, hold on. So medical aesthetics. So I do
Medical aesthetics.
medical aesthetics. So when you think of an esthetician who
Yeah.
does like facials, that would be with an E. The medical world where we do
With an
aesthetics
A.
is with an A. Yep. So that's kind of the big differentiating thing is like
S
us
medical
versus ass.
aesthetics.
medical.
That's what we're talking
S
about.
versus ass.
S
Yeah.
versus ass. That's what we're talking about.
Medical aesthetics. Okay.
Yeah.
E-S,
Yes.
A-S.
So I imagine so you have other
Injectables. Is that easier for you to say?
That's-
Just
yeah, it is
injectables.
easy.
Yeah,
There you
get
go.
needles
So
in this scenario.
injectables.
injectables.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay with Botox.
Yeah, so like you
That's
said,
needles-
if somebody
needles
comes
too.
in and they want to do whether it's laser hair removal or remove a tattoo or they have capillaries or veins on their face that they don't like, yes, there's other places. If I said, oh, I'm going to go somewhere else in town, whatever that might be, I have,
Okay.
multiple.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's a great way to run
So-
a business.
You said your first line of defense was who?
My medical director. So
Okay.
for me as an RN, I have to work under someone who has higher credentials than I do.
Okay, so who does she work for?
So she has a license that she can practice like solo as she works for Mother Mayo.
Okay.
But she yeah.
Is she
Well, I just meant like obviously with you, when you have a question, you're going to just follow the chain in
Yep.
within your company.
Yep.
With you are your company. So you don't have that.
So that's what the medical so that would be my, like he's saying he has a whole corporation. I
Yeah.
would say it would just be other providers that would have more experience than me or
Okay.
stuff like that.
Do you have to do continued ed for
Yeah.
your stuff?
Oh my
what
gosh.
like that.
I just did a
imagine.
cadaver course in the Chicago area, and just the class alone, just the class was a $4,500 class.
What?
You got to travel for
And
that. so
I
it's
traveled. It was probably a
plane,
$6,000 turnaround.
Plane?
Yeah.
Chicago, you drive your wife down there. You
hotel. You got 2 kids.
I mean, I did fly
Yeah.
for quickness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a $6,000 investment for my education, where when I was getting education through Mayo Clinic, they were paying for that. So now
Yeah,
my continuing
that's what I was in Nashville
education
for
is
last
me.
week, 'cause-
And like I said, the aesthetics world, because it's a luxury type of,
Right.
industry, I pay luxury type prices. So when I say a cadaver course, it was literally a severed head that we do different injectable techniques. We learn ultrasound. I mean, the medical world.
Did it work?
It was
Did the filler work?
too soon. I'm just
You
kidding.
could probably tell that. You wouldn't be able to tell if the
So-
Botox worked because the muscle wouldn't contract, right?
Good job, babe.
I
Yeah,
know way too much
it was
about
more
this.
of an ultrasound guided. So we're trying to look at vessels and like different. I mean, it's a very complex industry, as anything in the medical field is. So
Right.
yes, continuing education is. You never.
I
stop.
imagine because you are a medical professional, so I
Right.
mean you have to continue that to
Yeah.
keep your license. 'cause you have
Exactly,
your
and it's
license,
my
right?
license that falls on, right?
Yeah.
Like I am a licensed practitioner.
I'm still confused because I'm not very smart. So just get that out of the way. This person that you would talk to that works for Mayo.
We're back to,
Jerry's
we're
back at
back
the
to the
table.
medical
Yeah.
director.
Back to the medical director.
Okay.
So do you pay her?
Yes.
So you have to. That's
So you
a
pay. So
legal
depending on
thing?
where you live, yes, you would pay either a percentage, a fee, however that. Yeah.
So she's a small business owner just
She-
in her own
She
position.
is.
just
She's a
being
small
her.
business owner in Casson.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So she works for Mayo, but does she have a side? I guess a side
Yes,
business.
she's-
are you?
Yep.
Her, I mean, are you her side hustle? Basically.
I mean, kind
I
of.
mean,
So
kind
she,
of.
as
Yeah,
a,
I mean,
yes.
not to
So
minimize it,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
mean-
yep. So she has people who she can have under her, who she's a medical director for, who we pay a fee to, and again, it's building that community.
Sure.
So when I go to trainings, I go with her, and we continue.
Oh.
We both got our devices at the same time. So like we're doing it together, and you have, like I said, a community of people who are doing the same thing.
And you have her because that's like a legal issue,
Yes.
or is it the insurance companies that force
It's-
you
so-
to have?
All of
Both.
So
Both?
all of the
Yeah.
above. So I cannot practice, as in I cannot order these different types of prescriptions. I have protocols I have to follow. I have standards of practice I have to follow. There's different things.
Could you ever get to her? I mean,
So
if you
if-
wanted to, if you wanted just more schooling
Yeah.
or what?
Yep. So if I
Okay.
wanted to go back and get more education, then I could definitely do that. But I do not want to do that.
yeah.
And if you were to become her,
Yes.
or in position, I
Yes.
mean, would you then not need her to
Right.
do what you're doing? You could.
Right.
Everything with you could stay the same, except you could dump her.
Yeah, if
because
I wanted
you're
to
it.
become a nurse practitioner, a DNP.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep,
That's what I was wondering if that's what she
exactly.
was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with Mother Mayo is there's some legality things, and Mayo Clinic is definitely starting to transition and crack down a lot because Mayo doesn't want people practicing different types of medicine.
Moonlighting.
Moonlighting, exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in my basement selling insurance.
No, you're not.
I'm just kidding.
So yeah, you have
You have so much more fun at your job.
It's very tricky. Yeah, nobody really gets too excited about it. Just kidding.
Right. I got a sweet policy from Tony Zuko today.
Yeah, man, that home is covered so nice.
Oh man,
But
no
this-
gap insurance. This guy.
No, man.
Even Tony's
My siding
office.
gets damaged. We're replaced all the way around.
Yeah. Speaking of his office, it's true, right, that you were his first hire
Oh,
and
yeah.
fire, right, at his office.
Well, what I was gonna say
Slow
was
to
like,
hire, quick to fire.
Listen, Tony completely outkicked his coverage, and then he fired his beautiful
well,
wife.
I will say I kind of quit.
I had to get the power back.
I did try at the same time I opened my business. I was going to try to help assist Tony a little bit and do some stuff in the insurance world. I learned real quick I was not interested.
She didn't open
Yeah.
up her laptop.
I didn't.
No, not one time.
At one point he said, "You know we need to fill out the paperwork if you want to get paid." I'm like,
She didn't even get paid. She wouldn't
I
fill out her
didn't.
hire stuff. I couldn't even pay her.
So the story I was going to tell you earlier was we were at the office together, which I decorated and took the time to
Very
make
nice office.
very
Thank you.
nice.
It's very nice,
Yes,
yes.
I pride ourselves in the Zuko
I would
family
have. I would
businesses.
have lawn chairs.
Yeah. At one point, I opened up this beautiful red American Family colored red carpet, this rug, and he looked at me and he's like, "I don't know if I like this." And I said, "Can I just put this all together and then we can talk about it?" I finished it and he's like, "This really looks nice." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, no kidding. I got it."
It looks good.
But what I was gonna say is we were working together in the office and Tony walked by me and I hit his butt, like good gamed him, and he whipped around and he said, "Babe," or Elizabeth. He probably didn't even call me babe.
He probably Babe.
He
I
probably
said
Liz
Elizabeth.
or Elizabeth to me, and he said that could make somebody feel very uncomfortable. That could be sexual harassment. And I looked at him. I'm like, "I'm your wife." And he said, "In corporate America, it doesn't matter." And I got scolded by my boss, and
Yeah.
I thought,
And then
this isn't gonna
he
work.
simply said, "Do it again."
Nope. He
Uno
literally
mas.
was like, "You're
Uno mas.
fired."
One
No.
more.
No.
No, and coming from the corporate world, you're very conscious about the things you say and how you act in that kind of setting. And
That's why
so-
I'm not in the corporate world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I literally was like, "Well,
Yeah.
whatever."
So like, when that happened,
We need to talk later.
Yeah.
just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah. So like, it wasn't even something I thought about. It just like you get that corporate mindset, and then you're like, boom, you're like, oh, that's not acceptable. So then I like switched into corporate
What?
Tony.
That's frowned upon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. After the third time, yes. But then, now hearing it back, but I would still have said the same thing. Because like I want to
So
be
he's a
very-
real buzzkill,
I'm a
is what he's
buzzkill.
trying to say.
I
got
want
that,
people
yeah.
to be, have professionality, and I want people
If
to
the
feel
office would have been
comfortable.
filled with customers, I wouldn't have gave him a good game. But since we were alone,
I think you called it a good game.
yeah, that's
that.
great.
So use that.
Hey, good job,
Hey,
good job selling that policy.
good
Yeah.
game, yeah.
Yeah.
good game.
But
Wow.
yeah, that was fun. She likes to tell that story.
Well, I've never in my life had anyone say it was going to be sexual harassment on me, but
Oh, jeez.
Let alone your husband.
It's,
Yeah, right.
it's really because you made him cry.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it
exactly.
He was, that was just, like he said, he's trying to take his power back from being in the fetal position.
So then she got fired
Yeah.
for sexual harassment.
You should be so lucky.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm like, if I went after her
Don't.
sexual harassment,
Please don't. Don't good game me.
no more.
Right. Holy cow.
No, but that's so. I think that's a huge difference because that again on your side, you have your medical director, but that's not a system. I mean, it's not. You look
You're
at
not
what you
guaranteed
have.
an answer in that
No,
scenario.
you're really
Yep.
not. I mean,
Yep.
you have a real support
Several
system.
layers.
Yes.
Right, several layers.
Yep.
You have a gal
Yeah.
to call.
Yep.
And great, not to minimize her role either. Obviously, that's a
Yeah.
lot of work to get where she's been.
Yes.
But still, I mean, even an expert's wrong. It's nice to have opinions. It's nice to get kind of the layers, right? That's a
Yeah.
great way to put it. So yeah, that's kind of nerve wracking also. But I mean, this is a lot of respect, a
Thank
ton
you.
of respect
Yeah.
for what you've done.
Yeah.
You've done good too, Tony. It's
My
We
job's
like
hard.
you, Tony.
My job's
no,
hard.
but I mean, on the same token, there
Yeah.
looking at, I mean, I'm pretty vocal about the trap. I talk about that a lot. But I call it a trap for a reason. I mean, it's effective.
It is.
It's
Absolutely.
for you to go from stable corporate. I mean, I'm going to go out on the edge and say that you probably weren't on the verge of getting fired.
Oh my
or
gosh,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you weren't like on your way out.
No.
You stepped out. And to do that, I mean, that says a lot about you too, though.
Yeah,
The
that's what I said.
support-
The spousal support comes back to it, right?
'cause, yeah, we've talked about this on multiple occasions, that having that spousal support is so important, so important, because you don't turn it on. You don't, when you own your own business, you don't turn on. It doesn't shut off with the lights and you go home.
Yeah.
And the trap was even worse for me because I come from a very we don't have very much money where I grew up. It's very economically deprived. And I really worked my way up American family, hourly, $12 an hour. And I first became salary. That was a big deal. I became an underwriter. I started working my way up, and you build this salary and these benefits and this tenure, and you're like, you can't leave. You literally can't leave, especially when you come from a place of not having anything. And so for us to get through that and get to the point where I felt comfortable enough to do this, I don't know how we got here. But it was really hard to leave. It was really hard to leave.
I can't imagine that the decision-making process.
Yeah.
There. I mean,
Right.
We went back and forth for years.
We did. And
on that,
I felt
on
like
me.
once I started the business, how am I going to tell him, sorry,
Right.
you can't start? Now, granted, looking back, I wish they were a little bit more spread apart because of the fact that you're kind of robbing each other of the excitement of starting a news because we
that's a
both
great
did it
point.
at the same
Sure.
time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I will say there
That's
was
one
challenges.
aspect I never would have thought of.
Right.
You're super excited about starting this business you always want to start. You're super excited. Who's more excited? Listen, I want to tell you about my day. Well, let me tell you about my day.
That is exactly what happens when
Yeah.
we get home because she's pumped because she did X, Y, or Z or helped some lady somebody maybe left a review or sent her a text about how much they feel good about what happened, and she's sharing that, and I'm like, I just got this guy $3,000 on a discount he should have had for the last 3 years, so I'm pumped.
Right.
And so
It's a big
I'm
deal.
I can't wait to up her, not in a negative way, but I have that too. And really, it
And
should
then
have
a
been
2
just
and a 4-year-old run around. We're like, shh, we're trying to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great point.
Yep.
It's like a friend of mine proposed to his wife at the groom's dinner.
That's a no-no,
Another
right?
friend of
That's a
mine.
no-no.
And it's like,
Do that.
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like, he's dumb. I mean, let's just when I say people are dumb because they can't know what they don't know, he's just dumb. I mean, it just doesn't matter what you're talking about.
dude.
He's an expert of nothing, and it just and I mean, it didn't last because he's dumb. I mean,
Right.
but to have that, and it was such a production at someone else's groom's
Production.
Jeez.
Really, a production. I kid you
But I'm
not.
saying it was a production at somebody else's actual production plan.
Yeah.
Production.
Right,
man.
right.
I mean,
That paid for the production.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
your wedding is one of the, usually
Yeah.
one of the biggest days of your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
other than children, maybe, or started a new business or whatever. But man, alive, that's
or the divorce.
right.
decree.
Happy
Yeah.
divorce.
Right.
When that gavel hit, that
Liz
was
has been
pretty
through all of
exciting. I mean,
those, so
Yeah.
she had the
Easy.
divorce. What's that like?
And I'm still standing.
Oh, that's what we don't need to get into that, but that's interesting. It was young. You were young, right?
Yeah, I was young.
Yeah.
But no, I mean to have two small businesses in the family. I don't want to say that's uncommon, but to have them so close together.
Yeah.
That's
Great point.
That's crazy. I mean, really. I
I
mean
mean,
that
yeah.
with all the respect in the world.
Well, that first
But
year
that's
you're
crazy.
trying not to pay yourself a lot, right? Because you want to be profitable and put it back into business. Well, when two people are trying not to pay themselves, who the hell's
be a
paying the
problem.
mortgage?
Yeah.
And then you got two kids and you lose a benefit, so now you're paying $1,000 a month for health insurance. Things
alive.
things changed rapidly, and
You guys jumped right off the high.
I
Oh,
told you
man.
we're either it's gonna be the best decision of our life or the worst.
Jerry,
But
we
so
might have
far,
to
it's
move
been-
into one of these spare bedrooms.
It's
I would
so,
come
but
home with
honestly,
tea.
so far, I feel like with my first year, his almost first year in, it's been a blessing, and we both have been
Yeah.
grinding to make it
Awesome.
work. And that's the difference.
Yep.
Is like we're not gonna fail because we're not gonna let it.
Right.
And when you talk about new businesses, unfortunately, I know statistically sometimes that does happen. Failure can happen, but I think for us, that just wasn't an option, and I think we didn't let fear dictate what we were gonna do either.
That's true.
Well, I don't want to knock you down a peg, but just remember, because of you two being successful, there's about 187 other businesses out there that are taking it in the shorts.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
of you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Right. Yeah. I think it's great that you said it. You said it earlier. You just weren't gonna. You had to make it work. There was no other option for
Yeah,
you.
I didn't. Yeah, we didn't both just leave our corporate jobs
Yeah.
to
So
not be
that's
successful.
a testament
But
to what it takes.
But that's
right?
grit.
That
And
is
we-
100%.
and I asked when we had Danielle and Michelle and Diane Gray here. My question to them was, who, and not like a name of a person, but we all know that narcissist. We all know
Yeah.
that, the person that wears their heart on their sleeve and they'd give you everything to a fault, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like, who shouldn't be in business for themselves? And because you think about that, I'm talking about personality.
Yeah.
My example is, it's like, if you're that person that goes to bed at night and you got to get up because you can't remember if you shut the stove off or if you locked the front door, what a small business probably really shouldn't be for you. And Diane, she says, she looks at me, she's sitting where you are. She looks me right in the eye, and I always say I try to match energy and vocabulary in the podcast, right? And she says, assholes. You made me say that, she says. But that's true. I mean, you have to have humility. You have to be intelligent. I mean, you have to at least think these things through. Even when we're all still going to make bad decisions.
Oh yeah.
But you have to be able to take that customer when they're not happy, and you have to be objective. Going, is this my fault? I mean, even if you did everything right, but if you didn't, well, maybe this is more in your case.
Yeah.
Well, really for both you guys, if you did everything right, but you didn't explain it well.
Right.
That's especially, I mean, for both you guys, but in the insurance business, if I come in and say, I want insurance, I want full coverage. Well, if I bring you, I have a 2020 Dodge Power Wagon, right? Or Ram Power Wagon. I say I want full coverage on it. I'm 52 with a clean driving record and a decent credit rating. So I'm guessing that if I ask you for full coverage, that's not a number. That's a range, because there's got to be different, to follow the rule
a bunch of factors that go into rating, or also what kind of coverage, and how the different coverages that you get beyond just full coverage.
Right. When I just say full coverage, that's to me, I think that's what I'm looking for. But that's a term.
Yep.
I mean, so are we just trying to satisfy, if I have a loan on the car, are we trying to satisfy the bank's necessary insurance, or do you want to make sure that when you run into a family of four in a minivan, you're not going to go broke?
And that's the thing too, is as a trusted advisor, and that's what we all do, is we're trusted
we're
advisors.
All trusted, absolutely.
It's not my job to just give you exactly this is what I want. Like, it's my job to make sure that you're covered, because I need to be able to live with myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you don't like
it, that takes away from the sleazy part.
Absolutely.
Right there.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
That is the difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not just selling them a policy. Yeah. You got to make sure that they're covered.
And somebody else will gladly write them at statement of limits. That's not going to be me, and I'm okay with that. I can walk away in that scenario. And
Tony would rather lose business and do it right than not do it right at all.
Because first of all, I have to be able to live with myself at night, and secondly too, there could be a case to be made that I didn't properly insure them. So if they do hit that family of four, and some lawyers,
because you have is it fiduciary? Is it a fiduciary?
I'm a fiduciary, but also too and I have a business policy. But ultimately, I'm advising them, and if I can't convince them, I don't even want to have to fight that case, because it costs money to hire a lawyer to do that.
You bet. And now that sleazy perception, that's there, because now someone's accusing you of not looking out for their best interest.
Absolutely.
And but nobody's gonna remember or know. They weren't sitting in the room when I told you this is all I want.
Yeah.
When I'm telling you to write that minimum policy, then I sue you a year later after I've vehicular homicide.
Have you turned some of that stuff away already? Yeah, because they just said this is what I want. You're like, I'm not going to write that.
Yeah, they come in for a quote and they want what they had before. I'm like, hey, this is what you had before. This is what I can offer you. And they're like, no, you need a match. I'm like, no, this is what I can offer you in the agency. And they've gone elsewhere because they can get a better rate.
Sure. But in my opinion, and just my opinion, but if I come in and tell you I want full coverage, and I just want to just take care of, I have a loan on it, so take care of, the bank's needs. It's your job to say, I had a client a year ago or 6 months ago. Well, for you, 9 months ago.
Yeah, within the last year.
Within the last year. But, that got into an accident. If they would have had that 30-60-10, this is what kind of shape they'd be in.
Yep. I can imagine you have from your corporate world, even, right?
You got to have stories.
Stories, upon stories.
So sad stories. Cause one of the jobs
stories.
I used to have is I was a consultant for American Family, and I helped different areas with their process improvement. So I worked with protective services at American Family, which is really cool. But I also worked with the claim division, and some of the horrible claims that I would hear about will break your heart. I mean, just horrible, horrible things. Back to your question, though, somebody comes in and asks for full coverage. I don't even talk about statement of limits. It's not because it just fogs things. Sure. If they bring it up and they talk about wanting that, that's when we have the conversation. But I put them, and I fully cover them from the beginning. I'm like, here's the coverage. Now there's optional things that we talk about. Do you want full glass breakage or rental reimbursement? The home gets really complex because there's a lot of things that are not covered on a basic home policy.
And that world is changing drastically.
Because of, in Minnesota, our weather patterns are changing drastically. And, hail is becoming more frequent and severe. And historically, we've not charged for severe weather, up here because we have not needed it, right? And with all of the hail claims, that's really impacting rates because now we have to pay, it goes in the bucket and it has to come out to pay for new roofs. And this is causing a lot of changes with rates, wind, hail deductibles, things like that. So you need to make sure there's so much to that, and that's why you really need to, more so than auto. That's where you need to sit down with your insurance agent and talk about what's covered and what's not.
Well, for
covered.
Most of us, it's your single biggest
Absolutely.
investment expense.
Yep.
Except for you, but.
What's the biggest for Jerry? What am I missing? You got a souped-up car somewhere?
So Jerry has what I... I'm saying it, yeah. So, listen, Jerry and I have been friends for a while, so I could say this, and he gets mad at me. I don't think he gets mad at me, but Jerry has what I like to call fuck you money. So,
How do you get to that?
Right?
What year of business is that?
Right?
Is it year 2?
Yeah, right, year 2. So I say that jokingly, but I mean I also say that because Jerry has been successful in small business numerous times over.
Thank you.
So that's why I say it jokingly, but it's still true, right? Yeah. He does have a power wagon.
Yeah.
And according to last night, a Kubota tractor that apparently never gets freaking ridden.
Never gets ridden. Well, that's what I said last. I said this is my favorite Nate Bragatsky line. My lawnmower guy, my lawn care guy is my wife.
It's my wife, yeah.
So
Yeah. Jerry, do you want to buy a $200,000 laser for me?
Well, it depends on the upside.
Yeah, right. Hey,
He knows the questions to ask.
Yeah, he does know the questions.
Yeah, I know the questions to ask.
That is correct.
Does it cash flow? I mean, really, that's that bottom line. If you're in business, that's what we have to discuss: is does it cash flow?
No.
And do I want to buy a $200,000 piece of equipment that's going to take us 30 years to pay for? Nope.
Well, the whole reason why I bought that, very expensive device that we were talking about earlier was because my profit margin between just injectables wasn't enough. I mean, it's nice, but do I want to make great money or do I want to make good money, right? And so for me, I'm like, okay, so where do I need to pivot in business?
Is this the needling thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the RF microneedling is literally the MSRP on it is $149,000. Okay.
She's got that paid off in 2 years.
I'll have it paid off probably literally right around 2 years. And
damn.
And
I'm sure he has that one.
We get 2 more.
But-
What do we need?
If I could clone her, but not have to deal with 3 of hers at home, then I would totally do that. I'm kidding. I would love all 3 of you. I would love all 3 of you.
There's a little mini one that's coming up. So she's 2 years old. That's a little mini me coming in hot. But I mean, for me, when I was really looking into, again, with the business part of like, okay, how do I become more profitable? I need a bigger profit margin. This isn't going to be good long term.
Right. That's a great point too. You've talked about this in the automotive world when you used to say automotive, the umbrella is so huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but then you went to your guys like, what don't you like to do? Tell me what you don't like to do, and then look at the numbers. Does it cash flow?
Well, we're
get rid of it.
Yeah, we're in a spot right now. We're 3 weeks out. We're after Thanksgiving, to take appointments, and I hate that. Now, would I rather have no customers and be starving to death? Absolutely not. This is it's the better of the 2 situations. But in the years past, we've gotten to this point. We just look at it going, okay, we're done doing transmissions. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put transmissions anymore. So I have to call Jasper. I have to call Midwest and tell them, take me off your books. I'm done buying trannies. We're not going to do head gaskets anymore. We're not going to do engines. We're not going to do tires. We're not doing European cars. We dumped the European software because, if you don't do it every day, you're not great at it.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is easy. So that's remember me, the Italians.
Yeah,
right.
Italian.
But you're cool.
You're surrounded by Italy at the moment.
Right. Sorry.
But that's exactly it. Is like we were talking about. Can I do 20 different things in this industry? Yeah, but I'd rather do 4 or 5 and be really good at it.
And that was my point. You're kind of on the opposite of that. Right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, so you started with the injectables, and now you got the needling, and like, okay, well, what else can I do to make myself?
I mean, I'm doing 4 main
successful
things: medical grade skincare, which when people are like, "Oh, medical grade skincare," it's just better quality, better ingredient, better product than what you can buy at the drugstore.
I do use that. That's one thing I do use.
I do use that. And then you think RF microneedling, which is that expensive device.
Start using
okay,
that skincare.
you do injectables. implants, which would be the Botox and fillers. And that's all I do is 4 main big, we'll call it big things, I guess, but that's it.
But as a medical professional, you definitely don't want to do things you're not great at.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
And maybe I'll do more, but I really want to be so good at what I'm doing and be successful at what I'm doing. And
well,
at some point...
your business, again, doesn't have that layered structure that he does. So for you to become an expert in those areas, be the go-to, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
It's a lot of,
every time...
experimental on Tony over here.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. She experiments on my face
Every time we got rid of...
with the needles or whatever.
I'm not sure that's
I don't know where that's going.
That's
Sorry,
helping.
that's-
Yeah. It's
That's not
a small
it.
business podcast.
Sorry.
But every time, I should mention this too, every time we kicked something to the curb, right? We quit doing tires. We didn't quit doing tires till we had the discount tires in town, and I had the confidence in them to do things right and treat people right. We didn't kick out transmissions till I talked to Quentin, and I said, I'm going to send this stuff to you, and you can't embarrass me. Right.
Yeah.
And which I wasn't worried about that with him. I don't mean to frame it that way.
Yeah.
We send everyone to Quentin. He does an excellent job.
amazing.
He does an amazing job. There was diagnostic stuff that we like programming on your car to go in, not just to pull codes, but to actually put information back in, software back in. No interest. I wasn't going to buy the equipment, and I don't want to deal with it. We send that to Mark Swee. Again, another excellent small independent shop in the local area. But every time we kick something out, Dave Colstock, he owns Workstat. Talk about European stuff. He's the guy. He's the go-to. He is my guy, and he does such a great job. And he doesn't want to do anything else. So each one of these has created a great network, but also backfired a little bit. And we joke about that. I'm trying to get that 2 or 3 week buffer and get it down to 3 or 4 days. If I can be 3 or 4 days out, people don't miss their appointments. They don't just not show up. They don't call someone else to get in sooner and then not tell me.
Yeah.
We're 3 weeks out, and sometimes we're done at 2:00 now. We were never done at 2:00, but we're done at 2:00 now some days because 3 or 4 people don't show up. Mondays are horrible. We have to get in the habit of reminding on Fridays, and half of my reminders are like, oh yeah, I forgot I made that appointment. I had that done last week because they went on the books for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So all of a sudden, our numbers are actually down a little bit because we're backed up 3 weeks. Now, Mondays are I quit calling people on Fridays to remind them, because when I do that, then most of them would come in, and the weekends we'd come into 3 or 4 or 8 cars towed in over the weekend that weren't on the schedule. And these people are in a panic. They're calling me the minute we open or 5 minutes before we open going, when's my car going to get done? It's like, I didn't know it was going. We didn't either. It just died Saturday. But I always had someone to send them to. Well, in doing that, then you create that relationship. So now Discount Tire, they send us alignments. Dave, he's like, if you drive an Audi and an F-150, Dave's like, yeah, give me that Audi. That F-150, take that to Broadway. Right. Nice. And so I keep getting back what I'm giving out in a different, but to be fair, it's what we want to do. So that makes it easier.
But when it comes to small business, and I think this kind of goes what I asked you about, like you have other providers that you can send to, because you don't do X whatever, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And hopefully they return that favor. Like I know you said it's a cutthroat business.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's something like, hey, listen, I know Liz does these 4 things and she's really good at them. I do it, but you know what? Go to Liz.
Yeah.
Because Liz, I know, is going to turn around. That's going to take some time, I imagine, to build that rapport. But I mean, that's staying with the way you and Bill work together.
Oh yeah,
I think that's fantastic the way you two work together with that.
Yeah, I mean, because we are competitors, but we're kind of not, because we have 2 different niche. He has a niche, right, with like teachers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have clients that are. Actually, I have people that come in for quotes or something like that, and I maybe I'm not competitive, but hey, I know a guy that might be able to help you. Or he's sent his own family like to me and stuff like that. Like we've worked well together. I think because we both have the same mindset of wanting to help people.
Just help the client. That's what I want to do. Yeah.
I just want to help people get what they need.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
It is.
And that's how business, I think, becomes successful.
Yep. Well, I mean, with the garage door company, Blake approached you.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
You didn't have the right product for what we were looking for. And and I appreciate that a ton.
Yeah.
And I will send people your way because of that. Because I know you're not going to just try and shoehorn them into. Here's an example in my business. When we quit selling tires, the tire industry changed. And if you're not a big tire seller, you don't get good prices anymore. We used to be able to buy, if we wanted to sell one set of tires a month, I would get the same price or like within 5 to 8% of the big guys. Well, 8%, I can just take that off the top and I'm just make 8% less. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, then it changed. These guys are like, well, if you want to get that price, you need to stock 3,000 tires.
Oh, that's not possible, right?
Right. Now, well, I mean, there again, you know, we run a successful shop. To buy 3,000 tires, I don't have room for it. So I got to rent space. And I got to, and if I have a different location, I really got to put a guy there, or at least part-time.
Costs, yeah.
So the cost is going and going and going. But now that's really not a big deal either because I'm getting a bigger cut. So I can afford that. And I got to sell tires. My question is, or my problem is, you go back 30 years ago, a 235 7515 fit F-150s, Chevy half-ton pickups, Chevy Impalas.
Now they're all different, right?
Now everything's different. And you buy a Chevy Impala, there's probably 4 different tire sizes just for that car. And so if I have 3,000 tires, that's a lot of tires.
Yep.
It's not.
But only for 4 cars,
right? It's not a lot of choices though. So when we looked at all the P&L, right, the profit and loss side of this, the investment, we decided it makes sense to buy 3,000 tires and to stock it.
You have 3,000 tires?
We do not.
Oh, okay.
The reason, the final factor that we decided against that was I said, if I have Craig that comes in, and right now, at the way we were doing it, if Craig comes in, he tells me he's got this car, blah, 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 and I'm like, okay, you know, the Firestone Destination LE, that's the tire for you. That's a great tire for your fit, for what you're doing with it, your use. If I don't have Destination LEs in his size in my warehouse, I'm going to have to go outside and buy it. That means all the money I spent on those tires is wasted. So what am I going to do? I'm going to look at it and going, I have 7 tires in his size. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick the best one out of that group, and I'm going to sell it to him. He should have Destination LEs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sell him BF Goodrich TKO2s.
Yeah.
They're a great tire. They're not great for your use, but I have them.
Right.
And you want to get rid of them.
And I want to get rid of them. I want to move my inventory. And now that this is having that kind of, because 3,000 tires is not, it's not $25. I mean, that's a huge investment, and I need room, and I need an employee. Ton of money goes into that. Can I make it back? If I sell, I can. If I sell those 3 tires. If you spend $149,000 on a piece of equipment and then don't use it,
it just sits there.
Doesn't
How
matter
big is
what-
this thing?
It's actually not that big.
Judas Priest.
Yeah, it's small, and I'm like,
It's not very big.
That's
Yeah,
a
it's-
house.
So that was the deciding factor for us, was that when you guys come in to buy tires from me, if I happen to have the perfect tire for you, great. If I don't, you're going to get the best tire I have, which isn't the right tire. And Darwin, he kind of looked at me and said, that's not how we do things. I'm like, it's not how we do things. And he said, he goes, you won't do that. I mean, he's just like, I mean, that was his thing. He's like, you won't do that. And I was like, I won't. I mean, I won't. Yeah. I mean, I would have to, but I won't. That's immovable object, running, it's like, what do you do? Unstoppable object running into immovable. Where do you go with that? So we're just like, we just don't do it. And then we futzed around with doing tires another 2 years after that. We only did it when they had national promos and the price were right. Then Discount Tire comes to town and they just kicked us in the teeth on tires. And I was mad at first. We covered this a little bit last night. I was mad at first, but then as a small businessman, do we want to be catty or do you want to be friendly? Do you want to be cooperative or catty? Yep. That's the choice. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, so they're kicking my teeth in. I can't stop that. I can't do better than them at it. It's just not in the cards. So how do I make the best of a situation?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And you start being honest with your customers, and the good thing with them, they don't do anything but tires. So I can send them there. I don't have to worry about them taking my customers and other things. It turned into a great relationship, and we cut out. They came back to me and said, "We'll send you all of our alignments if you get out of tires."
Yep, they do.
Sweet Jesus, I'm trying to get out of tires. This is
perfect.
This could not work any better. And the last night's podcast, Brad Berg was here. And that's how I met him. He was a manager at Discount Tire back then, 7-8 years ago, whatever. And now we're friends enough. Hey, I want to sit in on one of these. This would be great. Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah. So I mean, we went from me thinking these guys, them SOBs, and now here we are 8 years later. He's a friend of mine on Facebook and saw we were doing the podcast, going, hey, what and he had no problem reaching out to me, going, we thought enough of me to just go, hey. How do I get involved? I want to get in on this.
That's
awesome.
So,
let's just go back to the rapport of having relationships with other small businesses.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean,
We
that's
all need each
competitors-
other.
Yeah,
We can-
competitors
yeah, like
don't
it's,
have to
you know,
be
in your
competition.
business and your
Yeah.
you know, with you and Bill, and I imagine you have probably other agents.
Oh yeah, all
you
the
know.
ones here in Rochester on the AmFam side,
Yeah.
I'm friends with. You
Yeah.
know, I've a good relationship
So
with.
it's just it's such a, I think it's an overlooked thing. We all want to we want it all. Like,
Yeah.
like, it's my business and I'm going to do this. I want everything. But then you're like, but I don't really want that.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
that person over there does. And
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Because like I said, you can be competitors without hating each other.
Yeah.
Without,
Yeah.
I mean,
you can both have
there's- yeah.
wonderful, thriving businesses, even
That's-
in the
yeah.
same segments.
yep. We talked about that last night. It was, and everybody too. They're just like, no, we can all survive, and we have the, like say, your niche differences, and then it's a matter of integrity. If you and I are doing some of this, like you and these, you're doing some of the same things, but you do something they don't do, they do something you don't do. Don't try to steal my client.
Yeah.
You know, I'll send them to you.
Yep.
But then it just becomes a respect thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stay
and
away
that's
from the
where I
catty
hope
part.
it, and that's, you know, like you said, I know you said it's cutthroat, but I hope that at some point, maybe I already have this, so I'm not, you know, trying to put words in your mouth, but you know that you already have that rapport with some of the other providers. Say just what you said. Don't listen. I don't do this, so I'm going to send them to you.
Yeah.
If they need whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
don't take that from me.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
that,
You're
you know,
going to have some attrition because someone that gets referred to you they're gonna like you better.
I
than-
think that's it too.
than-
Is
than
if
who they
there's
got sent to.
personalities too. If there's somebody that connects different with a different provider, that's okay too.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't bother me either.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is officially, I believe, within 30 seconds of being the longest podcast we've done.
Well,
And
we got at least 31 seconds to go then, so we gotta beat that. I'm competitive. We're
Yeah.
competitive with each other. Like, how much did you make? How much did you make?
Yeah.
How many people yelled at you today?
so I'm beginning to think that my expectation of 45 minutes is just not realistic.
I don't think so. It's got to be an
honest.
hour.
Well, I got to be honest.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at the clock, earlier it was at 44 minutes. What's going through my head as we're all talking is, if I try to shut this down now, I would feel guilty.
Yeah.
Because all the other ones have gone long, and so to tell you guys,
Yeah.
40 minutes we're done. I feel like we're cutting short. It's
Yeah.
if we had big dramatic pause and we're scratching for things to talk about, but. The one thing I have learned. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that's one of the things with you kind of have to feel out how the conversation is going. Which tonight it's been really good between all four of us. So, why shut it off if
Right.
you don't really need to? Like you said, if we're just sitting here, you know, talking about Tony out kicking his coverage all night, then that's enough of that.
It's an interesting topic. I do have one more question before we.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to hear from everybody because it was on the prep sheet.
Sure.
Exit strategy.
Yeah.
Oh, this is such a
Amen.
great. This is Jerry's
Amen.
question.
I
This
got to
is-
hear the exit strategies from everybody.
Well, I'll start because I never had one. You know, when I had Mosquito Squad, and we've talked, Jerry, I've talked about, and I have thought about that question. And when he and I first did our first podcast together, he asked me that question, and I pondered that. Let me with those big words. Pondered.
That was hard. I think that was hard to come out.
I thought about that question for days. For days, I thought about that question, and then I asked business owners that I know, and then I, went and saw as clients even, and I asked the same question, and every one of them was like,
Yeah.
you know, probably sell it.
Sell it.
Right? That's kind of the thing.
That's
and
the
it's
answer.
such a great question because it forces you to think long term. And we had this conversation like exit strategy for you in say 5 years, right? If that's your exit strategy, is going to be different than your exit strategy in 15 years.
Yep.
Right? Or your exit strategy in 15 years.
Well, 15 years from now, you'll have a 19-year-old that may really like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then again, you have a 19-year-old.
Math.
Math.
It's tough math.
But you might have a 19-year-old that goes, not
Right.
interested. Right.
Yeah.
Not
On both
interested.
ends.
Yeah.
On both ends, right?
Yeah.
On both ends. I mean, you guys have that going on. I mean, I have 5 kids. I have one that's interested in business, with my businesses, and he's involved. The other 4, good kids, but just no
Yeah.
interest.
Got their own
No
thing.
interest. Yeah, they
Well,
got
and
their
I
own
think
thing.
in my industry too, if you think about age, like aging, in 5 years, 15 years, I'm going to be a different age and I might look different. So I might be appealing or unappealing to different age groups as well.
Yeah.
Where now I would say my clientele, if I'm 37, my clientele is 25 to 65, let's just say.
Right.
Where in 15 more years, maybe my clientele is now 35 to 60. Like I could also dwindle down that depending. I don't know.
Or you could gain more customers in a higher age group.
This is a bit off topic, and then we're going. So, but real quick, like, what is there like a sweet spot for you as far as age is concerned? I mean, like, I can't imagine. Again, I don't know.
I honestly don't, because like right now, I feel like I just told you, I feel like I am
like a 22-year-old. What I mean, I don't say this to be mean. Like, what do they need?
Preventative.
So
It's all preventative.
So like if a girl comes in and feels insecure about some of her wrinkles, she might start to do it as a preventative.
Okay.
So you get tox, it stops your muscles from moving, so you can't wrinkle because you can't do this. So this doesn't wrinkle, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the other side of that is how many 22-year-olds have the ability to
great point.
luxury.
That's a good point.
That's the other side of it.
Your kids do, but
They got that FU money.
Well, you look at for the joke. I saw a meme the other day, and it's got like 4 Corvettes, and it's 4 old white-haired guys standing next to them, and it's like, when I was young, I kept thinking, I want a Corvette.
Yeah.
I want a Corvette.
I still do, but I can't fit in them damn things.
Yeah, too big. Use them all for you.
Yeah, I've tried. I fold
It's
myself.
like Chris Farley in the suit jacket.
Fat
too.
guy.
Yeah,
What you said, a fat?
No,
a little bit.
The
I mean, you don't have to tell me. I'm sitting right here.
I see this guy at the gym in the mornings
That's
all
what I
the
heard.
time.
I mean, that's what I heard.
Yeah, you're a fat guy. Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's part of when you were talking the age range, that's the first thing that popped in my head was not does a 22-year-old need it. My thing was how many can afford it. Because again, we're back to that first question I asked you was, it's not a need.
Right.
It's a want. So it's a luxury. And when you said it's a luxury service, I love that because I'm gonna start putting that on my business cards. Jerry,
I'm a luxury service.
I offer luxury service. Alternator with a smile. Here you go.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
I love that term. But that's the first thing that pops into my head is, and then of course, the second thought, which is terrible, but was, well, it's like the folks that are handing their EBT card while they're playing with their $1,200 iPhone.
Yeah.
Just because they can't afford it doesn't mean they won't come to you and spend it.
Too.
I mean, that's and again, help them use your services. So
don't make it hard for them to give you money.
Yeah. Right. Don't make it hard. Yeah, don't make it hard. But yeah, the exit strategy, I love. I've told the story probably 6 times through these podcasts already, but the first few people I asked was because I really wanted to know the answer, and I wanted to know what they were doing so that I could try and evolve their idea to fit me. And it just amazed me. I mean, people that have so much time, money, effort, exhausting effort into their business, then you ask them, how are you going to get out? What's your exit strategy? Like, it's like it's the first time they've ever heard that term or that question.
Because you put so much into it that you can't like bring that in if you want to be successful. Right. Because you can't let that even creep in your mind, exiting, because you're like, I have to make this work.
Well, I think you should, though. I think you have
at some point.
Yeah, because I think you have. I mean, because what's your end goal? Like, do you want to do this until you're 75 and drop dead? Do you want to, you know what I mean? Like, so what is your your goal is to grow the business, but we've talked about, well, I'm going to sell it. Great. Oh, I'm going to sell it for $1 million. Well, what if it's worth $2 million?
Right.
Yeah.
But what if it's only worth $750?
Right.
Or what if it's worth nothing? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, I think it should always be in the back of your head, like, eventually, someday, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
Could be 20 years from now.
Right.
And when you're 40. So, and then,
I'll be 70.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the exit strategy. I think is really important, and it's overlooked. I don't know if a lot of people really think about it.
I think if you're strategic planning along the way, the exit strategy
Good
will
point.
be a lot easier down the road.
Yes.
When I was thinking of the question, the exit strategy, I was thinking like, hey, what if this doesn't work out in the next year? Like, what is your plan B?
Oh, that's one angle I never really thought of.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
I was thinking like always as a successful business.
Well, there's 187 businesses that are for every one of us, right?
Because
Because
of YouTube.
But
no, you're right. See, now I'll be the first one to say I don't have an exit strategy on my businesses for what if this doesn't work in a year from now. I do not pollute my thoughts with what if this doesn't work.
And that's what my train of thought was.
Yeah, but that's me. Now that doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, because if something doesn't go well, I'm gonna be left holding the bag, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of that, I always say let's break this down, right? Because it does change. If you were 24 and you were 10 months into your insurance business, your agency, right? A year from now, if it's not working, what do? I mean, that now you're 38 years old,
Yep.
and you had corporate America job, you've got some money in the bank, your house, you're established, you're married, she's got a good business going. That exit strategy, if it fails next year, that's way less damaging to you than it would have been if it failed when you were 24 and didn't have anything to back it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at 24, you don't have all that experience or other things that you can do.
Money.
I mean, he can go back to corporate
that-
America. Both of us could.
Both of you could.
If it
Right,
didn't work,
absolutely.
I could go back into corporate America pretty easily.
Yeah.
But like you said, when you
But
talk
that-
about failing, you don't let that creep in. But
No.
when you think of exit strategy the way you were, like, hey, what is your end game?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's where you have to have strategic planning along the way, and because you can adjust it. As
Yeah,
things
for sure.
change,
Right.
Maybe I want to be like Travis Arnett in town here. He has 15, probably employees, big agency. Or and then things change. I'm like, hey, maybe I want to be a smaller agent that I have a little more personal time to myself, and that's what happiness and end game looks like for me.
Have you thought of it? I mean, like the exit part of it. I mean, like I know you're only a year in, so
No.
Yeah.
Exactly what you guys are saying is I don't look at I think we're just thinking two different ways, where one person might be thinking exit strategy, how do I get out of the business and either retire or eventually pivot out of it, and I'm thinking like I'm just not going to let it fail, and I'm just going to worry about it thriving
worry about it later.
We're
first.
still white knuckling it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're just driving real fast, trying to be successful, and then
I
we'll
just don't
figure
let
it out
go.
later.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. I think that's why most
Yep.
people do it.
But I'll tell you, I still think not having exit strategy is probably the second biggest mistake that business owners make.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is when you're getting started, they're underfunded.
Yeah.
And that's why the other 187 are going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the overwhelming.
Costs so many hidden costs.
So many
much hidden
hidden
costs.
You're right.
Yep.
Okay, so if you guys are going to build a house tomorrow, and you set a budget, let's just say you set a budget for $400,000. Okay, if you set that budget and you map it out with your builder tomorrow that we're going to do this, and it's going to be $397,000.12, right? It's not going to be.
No.
I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
What's your thought? Just off the top of your head, if you have a $400,000 budget, what do you have to plan with the builder at the beginning to stay at 400 or less?
350.
Yeah.
350,
I was gonna say,
right?
Yeah,
about 350,
probably.
yeah.
I mean, we went through that. We actually built a house with
Okay.
a budget, and I don't know how much above the budget we went, and we didn't intend to at all. But you're like, oh, you mean the normal toilets that come with this, or like midget toilets? Like, we need to have a regular toilet. That's another $1,000.
Yeah, regular toilet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna splurge a little bit here,
Yeah.
honey. We're gonna get regular toilets.
You mean we have to have lights? Okay, like, yeah, well, that's an extra $1,000.
Right, but
Yeah.
that's my point. And
Yeah.
then like Jason Veit and I had this conversation. He owns Veit Cycle. Great guy, another great small business. He's going to be coming on and doing a podcast. But he was telling me a story about borrowing money to move locations, and he told his bankers. His banker said, "Well, if you think it's going to cost this, you should borrow this, right?
Uh-huh.
More." And he said, "Well, actually, I think it's going to cost this, but I'm going to be open during it. I'm going to have revenue, so I'm only going to borrow this." He went the other way, and I shook my head at him. He goes, "What's that for?" I said, "Brother, when they're willing to give you the money, you
Yeah.
take it.
Safety
Because-
blanket.
Because when you need the money, they're not going to give it to you."
Exactly.
100%.
And he looks at me and goes, "Where were you 5 years ago?" Because that's exactly what happened to him. He got in a pinch. Business slowed down. The cost went up. The business revenue slowed down. And all of a sudden, he was in jeopardy of not being able to finish this. He went back to the bank and said, "I do need that extra X amount." And they were like, "Why?" Because you're halfway through the project, right? So they come down, look at the project, and go, "Yeah, we're sorry, Mr. Veit. We're not gonna help you with that."
Yep.
But he's another one of us. The guy he's smart, he is hardworking, and he won't let it fail. And he didn't let it fail, and he got through it.
That's
But he
awesome.
said it was terrifying. I mean, that was the story he shared with me. It was terrifying in that spot. And he goes, "But that's exactly right. I went back saying, I didn't even want what they were offering me. I just wanted kind of what we thought it was going to. I just need a little extra." And they were just like, we're kind of hands off at this point.
Yep.
Figure it out, kid.
So like you're talking about the risk and stuff like that. Like part of the reason why I wanted to do this, A, was to build something, but B was because I wanted curveballs. Like I wanted hurdles, and when they come, I'm like, oh shit, like this sucks.
Right.
But
hell
then I'm
is
like, that's
wrong
what
with you?
that's what I asked for. Like I want to test myself and see what I can get through as a business owner. And so like that, him being able to triumph over that, like
Right.
what kind of achievement and sense of pride that you have, to be
Well,
able
you're
to
unstoppable
adapt.
then too.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you knock that chip off your
Yep.
shoulder especially after the bank says, yeah, we thought you were a good risk, but now we
So
don't, because
they're not believing in you, right?
right, because when they say that they're not going to give you what they offered you originally, that means their opinion of you has degraded ridiculously. And for you now to come back and just shove it in their face and go, you know what, I'm never borrowing money from you guys again. I'm going to get this thing paid off, and we're going to be done because we made it. That you are just that energy. You are unstoppable.
Absolutely.
You really are.
Yep.
And that's why I say, like, in the family, when you got that family member or that friend that's like, oh gosh, are you sure you shouldn't do this? When you don't try to convince them that you should do it. If you're going to do it, do it.
Show 'em.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
and then show it to them.
It's your decision. You own it,
Yep.
and don't care what anybody else tells you, except for your spouse.
Right, well, right. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, we keep touching on that. There's very little things more important than the spousal
Yep.
support.
She's my biggest cheerleader, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, I want her to do better than me. I want her to be the better.
I will. Just kidding.
Check.
Yeah.
She got that one.
No, I do. We do. We really try, and it did. I would say right away there's a little bit of resentment right away, and then we both
Well, you're
realized
both stealing each other's thunder.
exactly,
Yeah.
Right,
and we
yeah.
realized it.
That's
We're like,
really
we
a
both-
very good point that you made earlier. About that.
I
never would
considered that.
No, me neither.
But it makes perfect sense
Yep.
to say it. Yep.
And then you had to work through that as not only as a couple, right?
Yep.
As husband and
as
wife.
business partners too
Well-
now, because we both are part of each other's
Yeah.
business, right?
Oh,
Because we
God,
want to
yeah.
both succeed.
It was hard to
and
recognize
I got
that.
fired.
Yeah, I had to fire her.
Right. Well, you're
the first person I fired.
I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
Well,
The harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, we've had a rocky business relationship for sure. Yeah, and it's hard to recognize that like you are taking away from the other person. Like initially, you're just
Never
excited
would've thought
about
of it.
Yep.
Yep.
Great
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Good point.
Guys, we are officially way the longest
Wow. Right.
podcast. I had a lot of fun,
Yeah,
and
me too.
I think the subscribers, like I say, however many we get, will enjoy this. Do you feel like there's things we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I think
I mean,
there is.
right?
Like, I feel like there's things we could still keep going about.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Right.
That's good though. It
Right,
means
so-
we didn't run out of things.
Right.
You know.
So with that being, I will say this one more quick note. Almost everybody I talked to about doing this, even the ones that are excited to do it, they still have that. I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But I haven't had a 45-minute podcast yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're all going over. And Ryan Hagelin said it, he was like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. So did Bob Wish last night when we were leaving after, an hour and 38-minute podcast. Ryan's like, I didn't think we were going to have anything to talk about, but I kid you not, I feel like we talked about that much.
yeah.
He
That's
said,
just the point. Yeah.
And I
When we hit
said,
the 45-minute, I was like, we haven't even dove in yet.
no,
Yeah, we really
just-
hadn't.
We
Yeah.
was like, we
still
haven't
just-
talked about anything yet.
No, we're just getting comfortable with each
Yeah.
other, really, is what
Yeah,
it felt
yeah.
like to me. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly when I was looking at 44 minutes going, we haven't really talked about much. It's just, but I think it's still interesting conversation. So, so anybody else that wants to do this, or if you're interested in getting in a podcast, just do it. I mean,
Yeah.
this is,
It's a lot of
'cause
fun.
It is
Yeah.
a lot
It
of
is
fun.
fun.
And if you have a dumb friend that spends a bunch of money creating a studio, even better.
Right.
I mean,
That's kind of like people that
I know,
own,
guy.
like, what's better than owning a boat? A friend that owns a boat.
You gotta have the FU money though.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Oh, that's gonna stick. That's gonna stick. I can't wait till this one's
And
released.
I'd just like everybody to congratulate Craig on his last podcast.
That's having you. That's why I lasted.
Thank you.
So one question, I guess, not for you. Will you guys come back?
I will. Yeah,
Do
for
something
sure.
again?
Definitely.
All right?
Sign me up.
Okay,
All right.
awesome. So everybody give a sign off.
Oh man, you go
Putting you on the
first.
spot. Putting you on the spot.
I guess I don't know. I don't know. If you want to age gracefully, come see me.
All right. I'm gonna just say again, kudos to you two for doing what you're doing in later years. It's impressive to start those businesses with two young kids, same time. You guys had a lot of hurdles, and I think that can show people that listen to this are thinking, okay, this is time. It can be done. So well done on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't even know what to say here. It was a lot of fun kind of doing this. Being a business owner is one of the things that gives me the most pride besides being a father and a husband. So it's been awesome. Yeah, that's all that I would have to say.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm not in a position to be proud of you, but I'm proud of you. I guess I'll just say that. Honestly, it's just to make the decision first off. Craig touched on it. That's amazing. And to do it together is crazy. And you guys are killing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love that.
And I just like the fact that you said I wasn't going to let it fail.
Yeah.
That wasn't an option for us.
You get comfortable with being uncomfortable real quick.
Right. Because I'll tell you what, 5 years from now, if we're still friends and doing things like this, I'm going to ask you, and you're going to tell me that 5 years from now, something is going to creep up in both your businesses that you just didn't see coming.
Yep.
100%.
And that's not discrediting your ability or intelligence. It's just you're going to
Because why?
Why?
You know it. Why? What's the saying? You don't know what you don't know.
Oh,
no, that's right.
Just don't know what you know.
And business,
Like what I say.
everything evolves. I mean, everything evolves,
it all
and
changes.
you know you gotta learn to evolve with it. You gotta change, and you guys, like I said, the fact that you guys did it together is just insane. It's insane.
It
It's
is.
crazy, but it's awesome, and
It's very inspiring.
It's
honestly.
very
I mean,
inspiring.
It's very inspiring that you guys did it.
You know,
It's
it's,
way you
very
did it.
inspiring.
the,
So
the real question is who's going to get to the FU money first?
right.
Liz or me?
I
That's
mean,
an
they're-
easy answer.
I hope you tell me stay home, Dad.
yeah.
That's just.
I mean-
I'll tell you what, coattails are in your future. There's nothing wrong with
Hey, I'm
that.
down for that. I'll be a stay-home dad and send the kids to
Right.
school.
Listen,
Yeah.
I've got a sugar mama. I mean, my
you
wife
do.
does anesthesia, so
no kidding.
I'm finding a lot of the
I agree
BNI
with
people
that.
have sugar mama wives. Like they have
Yeah.
wives that are like,
I'll tell you, that's something else that for another podcast. But a lot of small business owners do it. That's why I say you guys are so unique because you both did it very similar in time. Most people have that
Yes.
security blanket
Yep.
of
Yeah,
the
we talked
corporate
about that.
America, good money, something, family
Or
money, something behind
into
it.
their corporate years for a long time and have enough banked,
Yeah.
so to speak, to say, all right, I'm done. I'm going to do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. That's right. So I just want to thank you guys for
Oh,
coming out
thanks.
tonight.
Thank
I think
you.
this
A lot
was
of fun,
so
guys.
much fun.
This was so fun.
thanks for having
Yes,
us, Jerry. And
absolutely.
Craig, thank you for the co-hosts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, I was told that my intros and my closings weren't awesome today, so I thought I would try something a little
I haven't
different.
heard
So I
them yet.
appreciate you. Well, we don't really have them. That's what.
Okay. All right.
Put
They
it out
don't
there.
exist.
Yeah, they don't exist.
Oh,
yet.
right.
We'll come up with something. But everybody, thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this, and have a great night.
Thanks.